All right, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. Yes, it's happening, so you can stop fucking spamming me now, you fucking dickheads. I'm Richard Lewis. That's Duncan Shields. You see, Duncan, what we need to do, mate, is every time somebody wants an episode of By the Numbers, no matter where you are in the world or what we're doing or whatever, we need to sort of sync up some sort of telepathic webcam service so we can just provide podcasts on demand for people that don't even pay.
It's a bit like the people who, no matter what time zone they're in, it should just be basically whenever suits them. And once recorded, even if, again, time zones aren't willing, should just instantly be released. Even if you try and say, like, well, you know, it's not quite that simple, you know, there's sort of like ideal times, they'll then sort of like push back a little bit. I like that, Rich. Like, they're not willing to just give up their position immediately. You know, they'll be like, well, you know, actually, this other podcast that's not like yours at all just releases to a SoundCloud whenever I like. It's like, well, it's not really relevant, though, is it? Though, yeah, but he's found a way to monetize it. But I think the best one ever, Rich, is this is one of the reasons why I actually was really against the idea of doing like an audio version of content, right? Yeah. Even though it is true, there is still no way to properly monetize it. Once I tried humoring someone, this is like in the early days, I think I do my YouTube. I tried humoring someone by replying to them and just sort of think like, you know what, I won't call them an idiot. I'll just say like, look, okay, this is why I don't do that. No one's figured out a way to monetize it. You know, again, it's audio, not video. I do video. And as I explained it all, what I realized was in being reasonable, he'd done that classic mistake of thinking like, this is a negotiation, you know? And he's like, right, well, this cunt's coming halfway to my side. So I'm going to like, so he was saying mad stuff to me. Like what's genius is at the end, if you'd written a quick version of his points were like, well, there's other podcasts get released, and then I was like, I don't have that sort of podcast, and then he was like, yeah, well, they just use sponsors, and I go, well, again, you know, sponsorship isn't inherent to the medium, you know, you have to get that. And at the end, if I'd have written down a short version, his logic was sort of like, just get the same sponsorship as like Joe Rogan and Duncan Trussell. And then eventually, if you work really hard and build out the sheer size of your podcast to be about 10 times larger, you'll make as much as you do now, in which case, well done. You've earned that.
Great argument.
Like, I know. At the end, you're just like, why would I do any of that? Why don't I just keep doing what I'm doing now?
For that reason, I'm out.
I know.
Yeah.
Where's the incentive
thing as well? Like, anybody who can hear your voice can hear you're obviously fucked as well. Like coming down with land def, just worked an event. It's a common thing. It's like people can see that you're on a screen in fucking China. You know what I mean? Like what do they want me to do? Like I don't know. Maybe
fuck, isn't it? So I thought, you know how the government literally doesn't want you breaking through this massive Chinese firewall we've got here. Could you use some sort of a VPN to constantly bounce your signal like some fucking 90s hacker from a TV show from multiple locations while on the run from the cyber fucking 5 who's going to bust in the door? And at this point in time, though, I say that as though it's a joke. I'm back in the European Union now where memes are about to be illegal. So
I know, mate.
Isn't it?
Don't even get me started on that. But look, I'm going to cut
those Pepe's a few years ago, Richard. We will be sharing a cell pretty soon.
No, that's it. They're gonna find our timelines. It's over. So look, I'm gonna continue moaning, mate, about some stuff because
full 45-minute segment allotted for this, right?
Yeah, a lot of people are obviously going to be, why don't they just get straight into the stuff I want to talk about? Just fuck off. Just fucking stop watching my... just literally, if you've ever even thought that, right? You dickhead, you tune in to listen to the thoughts in my brain, his brain, and occasionally Sam's brain. Also, that's how it works. Those thoughts might be anything. You trying to dictate them.
First 5 minutes, could you be like, well, you know, last episode, I have been put on the death row, and then they're like, bloody hell, can you just get to the counter?
I know. Yeah, a bit of bad news, everyone. Health took a turn for the worse. When you talk about EnVyUs, it's like, what's wrong with these fucking momos? That fucking, I can't deal with it. But anyway, here's what I want to moan about today, right? The fucking, it's been a day of talent announcements.
Yes.
Right? And I just fucking hate talent announcements. I just absolutely loathe what we do in esports when it comes to talent announcements. I think it's the most narcissistic.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it just brings out the worst in everyone in the scene. from the top down. And I don't understand how it became the norm that it's like the same cunts you see at every event. We're going to do an announcement that congrats, yes, those cunts are at the event again. And it's like they deliberately hold off on it. Now, let me clarify what I mean. If you want to tell your followers, right, that hi foreign fans, I will be at ESL Cologne, that's fine. That makes sense. You're telling your followers. But what actually happens is you can't tell your followers at the point where you book the gig because ESL are going, oh, we're going to do a big announcement and we want to fucking delay until we get our little graphic where we always get someone's name wrong or the wrong photo and we put it out there. And then everyone out there does the same thing. We saw it today. Oh, no Anders. Now, what a normal person would do at this point, let's say you're an Anders fan, right? What you would do at this point is you would go, oh, Anders isn't at this event. He does work about 500 events a year, though, so probably going to see him again. Just leave it there, really. Just leave it there and get on with my life. What you don't do is, God, I love Anders so much. Why can't he replace one of the people on this list that I will now arbitrarily select based on my own prejudices? And I will now write a fucking diatribe against that person for not even being the issue.
It is always presented as well as though, like, even the person you're explaining that you want, which, by the way, a good idea, you know, give people feedback, say, I'd rather have this person, but don't do it in a reasonable manner. Do it literally as though, like, it's just been announced the Academy Award goes to Driving Miss Daisy for film of the year. You're like, fuck this, and everything that isn't voted should have won. Like, you know, that's the sort of level of anger that we're getting at this shit, isn't it?
It just bonkers. So you have people like shitting all over Pansy. Like, Pansy was always going to be there, and Anders is like,
don't know if they've been following that storyline, that thread that she has been at all the massive ESL events for a while, you know.
Yeah, don't know if you realise she is like part of the fucking furniture guys, and very good at her job too. But anyway, so yeah, we'll definitely do that. And it's like what you end up with, and I'll talk about the next stage. You end up with these threads where it's just 500 comments of either love that person that is fucking, you know, on top right now, riding the crest of that particular wave, but also as well 500 comments of fuck Pansy, wish she just didn't exist. I wish I could be like that kid in the episode of The Twilight Zone and just put her in the cornfield because I am a deranged cunt. You know what I mean? It's 500 comments like that, right? And what people don't realize is when you do that, you perpetrate, or rather you contribute to, like, some of the worst shit that comes on. Because I'll tell you, because the gloves are off now. Like, I'm 2018, I've said it. No, I'm saying it.
Everyone thought the gloves were off before. Turned out those were a fair fake beds.
I got mittens on under those gloves.
These are the real gloves off now. Right, that's what.
Let me fucking tell you about talent in general. Some of the most egotistical, narcissistic motherfuckers all time. I love our CS crew, but y'all remember what they were like before they made it and after they fucking made it, right?
Sad. This is again, I don't give a fuck, so I'll just go ahead and say this. Yeah. This is how bad it got at one point in time. Because basically, I'll give you a very brief timeline of the CSGO casting talent history. So CSGO began, you had a bunch of people casting the game where there was just nobody available. And so whoever was there could just do it, basically. So you had a bunch of people, Risk, Warclown, names that, you know, either you hear on a lower level now or you just don't hear of them at all. Then what happened was you had the first events where, like, they had their own talent. So ESL had their own talent, Red Eye, Pansy, you know, you start to get some quality people bringing in. Then you get your Anders and Semler, they're getting going. Me and you come in, we start doing the analysis side of the things. You have Scoots, you know, and after that, you get like probably the golden era, which is like towards the end of 2015. You get Henry and you get Machine and you get Bardoff and DDK fully integrated. At this point, you basically got the top talent there. And then what happens is we had a couple of people over the years, and not all of them have necessarily gone to the top. You obviously get your Yankos and your Sponge, you know. And then basically the last year or so, it's been mainly the same people. Like Sponge came along late, but kind of integrated himself pretty well. Sean Gets probably do the same thing if he just sticks with it and takes some ludicrous offer when he realizes he can just tell Shazam to go and fucking kill two people and save an AWP and without having to, you know, do a day's work, whatever he has to do. So he'll figure that out at some point in time. He'll be back down that fucking Dark Alley selling crack to people in the guys being strats. Y'all got any more of them strats, Sean? Yeah, I've been working on these rock hard and that. Yeah, Rush B, you couldn't. Anyway, so Freakazoid like, all right. That's
the fucking NyQuil's kicking in, dude.
I got just that. Anyway, so here's the point I'm going to make: is because in the early days, it hit the prime time actually when we had all the good talent pretty early on. Because me and you, notably among other people, but there was the sentiment, had seen so many other games reach the top level of esports. Everyone's money goes up, everyone's exposure goes up, and all I can tell you is in other games, there's no sort of speed barrier. They all go from 0 to cunt in about literally 6 months of being big. Like anyone you can think of who's a big name in StarCraft, even the ones who I like, have been through this process. And if anything, we're only humbled now by your good old StarCraft being a non-existent factor for about 2 years, that they actually had to sort of come back down to being some sort of vaguely community-driven individual who actually, funnily enough, had to stick with the game if they loved the game or not, and didn't just move on to a bigger game. So what happened was when we saw the game getting big, that's one of the reasons beyond to make it fun, why we put so much emphasis behind the scenes on let's all be mates, let's have a cool crew. But I have to say, once it got to the last couple of years, that started to ring mad fucking like off in the distance, you know. That started to get really. There was one event. I'm not going to say which event it is, so you won't be able to guess. There was an event where I came home, and all you need to know is I have it on my computer right now. I have a text file that was made up that was going to be called the Real Casting Curse, because you know there's that concept, the Caster's Curse, where you predict. Yeah. Real Caster's Curse was going to be that the more successful people get, the more impossible they are to work with. And it was where a few notable individuals had pissed me off the right way, that I was going to basically blow. I wasn't going to say who it was, etc., or anything like that, but I was going to, in an abstract sense, explain this very principle, because what happens is, sadly, the bigger it gets and the more money it is, in some sense, the less fun it gets to do for exactly these reasons, all these fucking retarded tensions and political aspirations people have, and then you don't know behind the like the amount of times now you turn up to an event where I don't go to all of them, and you notice like, all right, so these two people are just at war forever now. I'm like, well, what's this sort of shit, you know? Whereas before, you know, these things get plastered over, as it were. So yeah, unfortunately, the whole thing's a powder keg right now. Let's be real.
Yeah, no, and it just I don't get it, because it's like, first of all, the community definitely contributes to it, and there's just absolutely no need to. Like, and I don't understand why community feedback or support would ever give you like an ego. Like, esports fans are the most fickle human beings. You know what I mean? Like on fucking planet Earth. Like it's unreal. They will like, it's like me. It's a cyclical thing. Every 6 months, Richard Lewis has done so much for the scene. You fast forward to another 6 months. Richard Lewis is bullying Babam. Remember that time he choke slammed a 13-year-old Swedish? It's like I just don't give a fuck anymore. It's like I have remained the same. I know within myself I haven't changed.
The Bitcoin cryptocurrency of public like fucking love or whatever, it's got to be one of the shittest currencies of all time. Just like you go, what? What's saved up that, haven't they? They go, that's worth nothing now. You go, what? Yeah. I've saved kids and everything. They're like, nah, you're out now because they like this guy from PUBG. Like, all right, it just doesn't matter. So it's like people really do take like a lot of stock in it. Like I know at the start with like talent across all games, you know, they see like, oh, I'm popular now, right? Well, that means I get to flex a little bit. So these talent announcements are just absolute fucking cancer for the scene. Plus as well, it sort of makes the community think they're involved in some sort of negotiation about who can and can't work events. Let me just clear that up for you. You're not at all. You're not at all. And here's why your boy Anders wishes y'all had any fucking sway over this shit. He'd be running the game right now, wouldn't he?
Right? And I'll tell you why you're not. Right? Because you got no fucking backbone. You got no backbone. You motherfuckers won't boycott a fucking tournament for not hiring your favorite person. You'll still tune in. You'll still sit in Twitch chat going, haha, Kappa. Or you'll moan about it being on Facebook. You do the same shit you always do. You wouldn't even boycott ESCA as they were leaving your house, just taking your fucking mother's severed head with them. You don't give a fuck. None of y'all give a fuck enough to actually be a force for good. So That's that point. And second of all,
there were a lot of people, to be fair, as well, in that analogy, where even when it was just proven that ESEA was Bitcoin mining, like wordy PC out, they were like, yeah, but the pugs are pretty good, aren't they?
Yeah. Yes, you know what I mean? I just turned your computer into a fucking Bitcoin miner against your will. I'm reading your Steam chats in my office, and yeah, but bloody matchmaking and the cheaters. And, you know what I mean? What do you do? Like, what do you do? What do you fucking do with that? But second of all, as well, what kind of mad precedent would it set if basically it was a negotiation every time? That if it was like the only people that organizations could hire.
It'd be hilarious now if it was literally like right now, ESL was just like, actually, on second thoughts, goodbye to Pansy and welcome Anders Blue. Like,
yeah, I know.
That'd be a worse scene, surely.
I know. Imagine the world that we would live in. So I'll just say this right off the fucking bat, right? If you're one of the first of all, I wish tournament organizers would just stop talent announcements. I wish it would just stop because it makes no fucking difference. It makes no difference unless it's like a spectacular announcement, like, you know, fucking Ron Perlman's going to come and do a fucking CS event when he's not calling disabled veterans neo-Nazis on Twitter because he's a fucking retard now, right? When he, you know, if it was something like that, right? Great, announce that because. What
about Hellboy 3?
Yeah, I know. Ron Perlman's on the list, mate. He's gone. You know, like if Ron Perlman was doing fucking commentary, I'd be all right. Sound, that's something new and interesting. Oh, it's fucking Anders again. Oh, it's fucking Moses again. Oh, it's fucking Duncan again. Who gives a fuck at this stage? It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Unless you're pulling some fucking unbelievable name out of a hat, I don't give a fuck, and I don't think the talent give a fuck. The community give a fuck about the talent. They're only there to piss and moan about how their favorite pick isn't there or how they actually secretly hate someone. It's just the same shit all the time. It contributes nothing. And then on top of that, if you've ever wondered, ESL, Face It, ECS, all these other people, if you ever wondered why negotiations ain't what they used to be, that you can't just sit down with talent and do it with a fucking handshake and a reasonable day rate anymore, it's because of those threads that you make by putting out a talent announcement. Because when they see like 2,000 people going, wow, what would an event be without Duncan, Thor, and Shields? You get your fucking Skrilla hands out and go, well, guys, the worm has turned. And that's it. And then you start negotiating like a cunt and playing hardball because you fucking know if you're not at the event, there's going to be a fucking civil war. It's fucking stupid. Stop talent announcement. Oh, and by the way, as well, why is this a thing? Right, people, I left E-League. Right? And I'll tell you this. When I went into E-League, when I took the job at E-League, I specifically said, I am an old, overweight, balding guy. I don't think I am the face of esports for television. Would love to work on the broadcast and content with you, but get a younger host. I recommend Machine. That was my...
And they were like, playing hard to get. We must have him.
Yeah, that is honestly, I swear on my eternal soul, I said that. Right on day fucking one when I signed the contract that eventually should phase me out and bring Machine in. Now, unfortunately, and I won't get into Machine, his colossal ego. I won't get into that, right? Because obviously he's another one of those people who are bulletproof. You'll all just have to find it out for yourself about the shit that goes on behind the scenes, guys. Never meet your idols. That's all I'll say, right? But I won't get into that. What I will get into is he has got fans that are as fucking bad as the worst Brazilian fans. In fact, a lot of them are Brazilian, right? That's how mental it is. Every time Machine is fucking announced as a piece of talent, he's
a piece of talent. Tell you what, check out these fucking pieces of talent we've got.
His fans,
absolute cunt, this guy. Look at him.
His fans fucking message me like, Corallo! Like, giving me all this shit. Like, guys, I quit the job and I recommended Machine for the job. And I always told Machine was going to be having the job. It's just ridiculous. Like, what the fuck is that about? Now, of course, it doesn't help when talent passively aggressively tweets about how they should be involved in every event going. Perhaps you encourage the worst elements in the scene when you do shit like that. So this is what I mean. Talent announcements are the fucking cancer of esports. Cut it out before it spreads, because we're just getting colossal egos, unreasonable community fucking reactions, and good people like Pansy getting attacked all fucking day by incel retards, just because you want to have a fucking couple of clicks on Twitter. Let's stop that, shall we? It's nonsense. It's not even a trend in real sports. So I don't know why we do it. So there you go. There's the fucking pissing and moaning. Let's do some news. Like bit of news. EnVyUs. Finally, it's over.
Who knew, eh?
Yeah, who saw that coming? They've all been released. I didn't even realize how many people they had under contract.
They had the academy squad as well, didn't they?
That
was playing at Gfinity.
Yeah, but so still, even with an academy side, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people under contract. Released them all. And yeah, I will say this, because obviously I'm about to go in on Hastro, because that's par for the course on this podcast. But I will say this. Apparently, they were all just released. No interest in any buyouts. I mean, I don't know how you would necessarily sell some of these players, but there's definitely 1 or 2 you could command a fee for. And apparently, they've all just been released and told, go forth and multiply, pursue other things that, we're going to just end your contract agreement. So I think that's good of them, if it wasn't already the expiration date. So that's fine. But this has been a long time coming for me. I saw Hastro. He did this other thing while we're talking about fucking peak narcissism. The other thing I hate. CEOs feeling the need to do straight-to-video monologues like they're auditioning for a fucking small part in an off-Broadway play.
All started by Noah Winston, I believe.
Yeah, quite probably.
He was the first.
Like, again, I don't need... Like, you've got a press release. That'll do. Thank you. I don't need...
No, you need to be like, welcome, our fans. I, like you, am an open and honest individual. What I'm about to say is straight from me, the owner of the team. What's that? Cup of tea? Thanks. Like mug of the fucking team.
Yeah. No.
Now, we have released this player because he is a fabulous talent and he will be stepping back to focus on school. And in the meantime, we found a replacement. Now, please welcome that replacement. 1 month later, player removed, goes to other team. Like, he's going to be one of the best of all time. Why, you keeping him though? No, but soon, real. Like, obviously, all the shit they say is absolute nonsense.
And again, it all links to the rant at the start of the show. It's this culture of pandering. It's this culture of pandering to the community. Like, they've got it all cracked in NA. If I just pander to the community, if I just debase myself, but actually it's not debasing myself because I'm playing some long con, like with the community, and make them think that they're equal and I give a fucking shit. Like, real talk. None of these CEOs that sit and do these videos have pretty much any input in the teams whatsoever. They bring the players in, and then then the players go, well, we won't play with him. It's not like they're out there signing players going, right, guys, this is the new guy you're playing with. No, the players control.
That's why I get triggered when the fucking owners come out sometimes, and they're like, we were never thinking of that player. It's like, yeah, they never got to you daft cunt, because not everyone in the team agreed, and they didn't, like maybe they talked to the guy who was under contract. Like, amazingly, it's possible for the owner to know fuck all about what's going on. Anyway, back to your original example.
Yeah. So, and here's the thing, like, I think we've all known for a while that fucking Hastro's just been adrift. He doesn't give a fuck about this team anymore. Hasn't for a while. Hasn't been to any events with the team. Obviously, hasn't paid attention to what the team's been doing, or if he has, it didn't prompt any changes. I will say this, we'll get into it when we talk about the event in China. They did play better than they have for a while, although I don't even count that Chinese event as an event because Navi won it, but whatever. But yeah, Hastro did this fucking straight to camera monologue, sort of talking about it. And, I'm just going to say this, like, it's just 6 minutes of absolute bollocks. It's just 6 minutes of saying nothing. It's like, we did have some problems with the team. We're releasing them. The only thing of any note in it is he says, we're not going to leave CSGO. We're going to stay involved in CSGO, but we're going to get a North American team. Okay. So it's just like, great, good news, everyone. I'll also add as well, right? He's talking about this great legacy that EnVyUs leave behind in CSGO and all the tournaments that they won and all this. He's wearing a Dallas Fuel shirt, isn't he? I mean, come on. Could you not fucking resist? Could you not resist? Could you not just put on an EnVyUs jersey? You know, you've got an EnVyUs hat. That's very good. You know, could you not just leave Dallas Fuel, a fucking fake made-up brand that is there solely for the purposes of making venture capitalist money for venture capitalists and sports groups in a fake league, right? Like, could you not just leave that out? Could you not just leave that out? No, couldn't. Has to, but all the brands. I hate this new wave of CEO, Duncan. They own multiple brands in multiple territories.
How dare they?
I know, it's just so dumb, though. It's like, you know what I mean? And they're trying to like make it look like, oh no, I care equally about all my 3 organizations that I run in different territories solely for the purposes of making profit and conquering the market in a reasonable fashion. But yeah, so he says he's going to pick up an NA team. I don't know who the fuck that would be, because I think in terms of NA talent, we're pretty much tapped out, right? Like, who the fuck's like? Who are EnVyUs going to get in NA that's available right now that they could? That'd be worth it.
Well, I mean, the problem, this is something we've alluded to in past shows as well, is that words reached me over the last few months. Some of those NA teams that everyone looks at and they're like, well, they were shit, weren't they? They weren't even making it to Pro League finals. They're on like fucking mad figures of salary. So sounds to me like the actual market there is ridiculous. So yeah, if when bearing in mind that all the talent's basically signed, I don't really know where you're going to go in that. It's going to have to be a bad team, or you're going to have to go and get the aforementioned Sean Gares, get his ass out, get a bunch of people that are vaguely available, put them in a team. Obviously, the ultimate joke would be you collect all the free agents and the talents, and they come for a meeting. You know, it's like the bloody start of The Usual Suspects or something. And when they're there, he goes, right, I brought you all here for one reason, to win. Now here's the man who's going to lead you. In comes fucking Happy, just wearing like an American hat. So I'm like, hello, I am here. No. He's back. It's your boy. Anyway, a lot of people have said I don't learn from my mistakes. Anyway, here's Happy. Right, come on, lads. Now do everything he says. Everything.
It would certainly say. I don't think he'll make that mistake again. I mean, he specifically said he wants an NA team and he wants to keep, you know, because they're in Dallas and logistically it was a bit of a nightmare. But you know, just talking about the players that got released, is there a team here, Duncan? I mean, like, I feel like there's 1 or 2 players that could certainly go on and do stuff. But I definitely think they shouldn't, like, the team that EnVyUs were at the end should not be a team moving forward. I mean, like, again, I know Sixer was bumped up from the academy side. We'll get to him in a sec. But, like, I just don't think this... Like, I don't think there's 5 players between the main and the academy side that make a good team for me. Scream, without Happy being there to obviously cramp his motherfucking style, has looked all right recently. I'll give him that. I think Kiyoshima's having a bit of a resurgence. Apparently RPK wasn't happy with the project, and I think that extends to maybe some of those players. Haji's done all right. But honestly, I think they need to try and... The players that can need to try and hitch their wagon to some better French players if there are any out there. Or try and get into European teams. Like Scream's obviously done that before. But I just don't think that 5 has a future. I don't think any organization's going to be knocking down the door to pick them up.
No, that's part of the problem as well. Like, for a start off, the obvious main issue is, as we alluded to with Happy, like, unless you want to start another squad with him, which, I mean, they've just been catastrophic failures ever since he had all the good players. So you can't do that. So immediately need an in-game leader. Not that many available in the French-speaking world at the moment. So unless you can somehow lure Major away from Space Soldiers, which if he really does have a mega long contract, who even knows if that's possible. Yeah, unfortunately, to me, there's like I could see a world in which if someone had the right other players, you can obviously put Scream, RPK, and Kiyoshima in a team. Like, you know, they're talents that are certainly good enough. But then again, it's going to have to be a different squad because we just did that for a few months and even that didn't work. Yeah, the thing is, because of this tournament they were just at, this tournament was supposed to be like the saddest last hurrah ever. It's like, right, you know, Scream and Kiyoshima, those guys you remember. Well, for whatever reason, Happy and RPK don't want to go to China, so they're just going to a tournament without an in-game leader, without the player who on paper's been the best player for the last year. And obviously the point of that is it's an easy tournament, but you know what? They're probably just going to bomb out anyway. Could go out in the little group even, and then that'll be the end of that. You know what? Maybe it even helps that we're going to release them now, because it's like, right, well, there was shit at the end, so we've released them, don't worry. Of course, they only go on and make top 4 at the event. Scream looks like fucking absolutely rejuvenated, like he's absolutely rolled back the years. Kiyoshima was in-game leading and hitting big numbers. I mean, the others, like, actually, considering, you know, I think some of the others aren't that good players, still doing all right, you know, managing to contribute here and there. So then what's mad is it ended up being a half-decent advertisement for a few of them, and especially, I think in the case of someone like Scream, and the fact that Kiyoshima isn't even an in-game leader but did a competent job, it ended up being some sort of, considering how much I flamed Happy at events he was at, this ended up being like the maddest advertisement for what a cunt he is when he's gone. Because, like, why was Scream not doing any of this when he was in your team? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, do you remember when they had that weird thing at E-League where there was a mutiny? Do you remember that? They picked, right, Happy picked Train, and the players didn't like it, and they got blown the fuck out like 16-1, 16-2 by Cloud9. Right. And they did a losers interview with Scream, and he was like, I don't even know why we picked Train. We don't practice Train. Nobody knew what they were doing. And like it was clear, like as soon as Train was locked in, the players were just like running around like headless chickens, like, right, we'll show Happy. Like, there has been problems with the dynamic in that team for the longest period of time. And this is what I mean about absent parenting. Hastro could have fixed that at any time. And you've got two choices. You either cut the big name players that don't want to play with Happy anymore, and you let Happy build a fucking team up, right, of unknown names, which isn't guaranteed to do anything, but if he's your boy, he's your boy. If your in-game leader's your boy, you back him to the fucking hilt, and you can't have anyone undermine his authority, right? Or you accept that, actually, shit definitely does fucking roll down hills, and it's coming from the top, so if we chop the top of the pyramid off, we still might have something here, right? And they did neither, and it's just been blundering along for, like, all this time. And it's like you say, I mean, look, I don't even know if Happy will like continue playing right now. I don't know if anyone would want to. Like, he's not said anything. It's not like he has fucking, what's it in French? Joie de vivre or whatever the fuck for the game. Like, he's got a face like a smacked ass whenever he's sat down playing. Meanwhile, if you talk to him at a bar, he does occasionally crack a fucking smile. Like, occasionally. Right? But when he's playing CS, he looks fucking abjectly miserable. So maybe he doesn't play anymore. Like, this should have all just been wrapped up way fucking sooner than it should have. And again, think about it this way. In terms of profitability, which I know Hastro's definitely into, this has been a pretty expensive move, because now you're just releasing all these players. You didn't have a team that was hanging in there, maybe needed one or two parts to be tinkered with, and you can sell it and get yourself this NA team, which will probably be cheaper. No, you've had to just release all your fucking players, and now you've got to completely rebuild after languishing for however long it's been, like 18 months or whatever. So really bizarre for me. I don't know what the future holds. Like you say, Kiyoshima and Scream are going to be all right based on that performance. I think they've got enough brand value anyway where it wouldn't have mattered if they'd played well or not. Interested to see what happens to RPK. And Kiyoshima's apparently just released a twit longer, but I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah, that's another thing people don't stop and think about is, unless there is some big deal coming and somehow Happy and RPK are going to be in it together, RPK surely got to be a more retirement bait. I mean, this is a guy who famously doesn't speak any English. As in, if he does, he has never attempted it at any line I'm ever aware of. Like, I've never seen him speak to anyone, never spoken to me. I've never even heard him speak a word in English, no joke. So someone who absolutely, if you look at how like depleted the French scene is, I don't think he wants to go and play with tier 3 players and start his career over again. Alarm going off, is it? All right. I like the way you've got an alarm, like, fucking sounds like the music in like a spa or something, doesn't it?
No, it was a phone call coming. It's probably
turn off and I'm Mr. Lewis, and I'll finish you off.
It's probably his machine. What are you fucking saying? Yeah. I'll fucking end you in this industry, you daft cunt. So anyway, yeah. So, you know, I think, like I say, this has just been a like long drawn out terminal fucking death rattle You know what I mean? And it's like there's no money.
That would be amazing if that was who the call was as well. It's like, you keep my name out your fucking mouth, or I'll fucking end you in this career. Tell you what, I'm the young lion running this pride now. Call me Deadeye. Just an Easter egg for the old folks there.
So anyway, yeah. Look, so let's do the next story. We were also right about Golden, except he didn't even get to go to a fucking event, did he?
He only did did he even do a LAN?
No.
No, so what he's done is switch to entry fragger. Dead on me. He's really looking forward to switching. I like the way they absolutely cooked him about 50 times over, Rich, because in the retirement and in the kicked announcement that they did there, right, they simultaneously tried to imply again that he was the one who chose to become an entry fragger. Then, which is like saying, by the way, that someone who has no guns, I'll go first over the trenches. You wouldn't, would you? And then secondly, they have also done that classic move I alluded to earlier, where at the end, the manager of Fnatic says all that stuff about, he's a fabulous player, he won us all those championships, he's going to be a great player one day. So anyway, get the fuck out the door. Anyway, we can't under any circumstances work with you. You're absolute shit. Get out the door. We'll take anyone but you, Whiskey. But he's a fabulous, that sort of thing. Why are you just overselling the fact you want to keep him when you're so clearly announcing he's not going to be in your team?
Golden took it like a fucking champ, man. I haven't seen anyone take it that fucking well since Ed Norton in American History X.
To be fair, though, he has got a bit of happy in him. Because remember the moment, it was announced.
It's steady now.
It was announced that listen, obviously not the other one. He's probably got fucking ED, hasn't he? So anyway, right. What do you think that would explain so much about his life that his shit just didn't work the whole time? In-game and metaphorically. Anyway, so no, the thing is, Golden, remember, when he got reprieve from the guillotine last minute, was he jubilant? Was he over the... No, he just goes out and tweets, I stay. So, what the fuck is this? What's that supposed to be? Some sort of edgy minimalistic thing? If that's your range of actual emotion, I can see why these cunts wanted you out the door, really. What are you doing?
I mean, look, here's how I look at it this way. I think, he just got fucking shipped from pillar to post, told this, told that. And again, it's more fucking proof, by the way, that if you think the managers are hands-on and involved, think about where Fnatic were before Golden come in. Now, I'm not giving him all the credit, obviously. I think that's disingenuous as well. The reality is, Crim's definitely got back to it, top tier form at the events they won. Flusha started clutching again like he used to. There was a lot of factors, but equally as well, Golden was the fucking activator. You cannot deny that. You cannot deny that whatever clicked when he became in-game leader, it did, and they had one terrible event and one event, which was unthinkable where they were when he came in as in-game leader. In fact, nobody had any stock, any faith whatsoever that he would make a difference, and people thought it was just like a fucking Hail Mary pass, right?
Oh, actually, just now, 15 minutes ago, Keo's put out his twit longer of his reasons.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Yeah. I'm not going to get into it on the show because I think it'll drag it out too long. We'll save it because we'll do another one early next week when you get over this cold. And we'll go into it there. But basically, fucking, so you have all this going on, and Golden's definitely the catalyst. He's not the entire reason, he's the catalyst. And for them, it just sort of be first they're going to cut him, then he's back in the team, then they trundle along with him, they're eyeing up replacements all the way, not even good replacements. As I said, to take an in-game leader that wins trophies and consider replacing him with an in-game leader that doesn't win trophies, it is notorious for having terrible vetoing, no great tactical insight, had to have a coach prop him up, and they still didn't win things in the form of Exist. Then all of a sudden, fuck it, we don't even need an in-game leader. We'll just get rid of him. But what we'll do is first we'll pretend we're changing his role and we'll put him in the worst possible role. It's almost like they did that just as some fucking meme. Because Flusha always looks like he should be playing a fucking banjo. So he's over here. Why don't we tell everyone he's entry fragger? Right?
Why is he playing a mad banjo?
Come on, you all know what I'm talking about. We've all seen the big-eared boys on farms. Haven't we? Right?
No. Get him a straw hat.
And it's just a fucking joke, innit? It's just a fucking joke.
I'm gonna have to say the thing with Flusha as well is like this is where you almost could believe that Flusha's whole career was some sort of like Joaquin Phoenix fucking like performance art piece where he's purposely made himself look the part of like the crazy guy while he's doing it all, because he's another one of those players like you were saying about Dossier with the 200 IQ grenade. It's like, right, so you're telling me this player's been accused and speculated that he might cheat due to his uncanny, eerie ability to know exactly where people are in the game, right? Let's have a look at him then. You're having a laugh, aren't you? Right? This is the fucking golden child, is it?
Yeah. No. Honestly,
what's going on with that clip? My hand bumping to keyboard. This guy's like this shit. I'm out of.
But it's just like, honestly, like it's just like you can just picture Golden coming in like towards the end. Hey, what you doing in here, Flusha? You making whiskey? Well, hell, I'll buy some. I could use a drink. You sure do got a purty mouth there, Golden. I bet you could squeal. It's just fucking unreal how hard they fucked this guy. Like, it's just ridiculous. And there's no justification for it. And then on the way out, he says, yeah, thanks for everything. Gonna miss all you guys. What?
Mad, isn't it?
Gonna miss you? Like, what? They have been trying to assassinate you, and we're even considering making you look absolutely dog shit to fuck up your chances of getting in a new team by making you entry fag, and you're going, yep, thanks for everything, guys. It is so fucking bizarre. I'll tell you what, right? Golden, there'll be a video come out in a few years of him just getting his balls stamped on by a dominatrix or something.
What do you mean? I don't reckon there will be, man. Bet do we want £10? £10 we want. £10 we want.
I don't like this game released anyway.
Right? He must be into that. He must be into that. Why else? Who else would put up with this type of shit and be like?
And obviously she'll be like, right, and you're going to upload it now. And no, I've got a career doing that shit. You're going to, because you're a filthy little disturbing piece of shit, aren't you? Yes.
You and then the whole disturb me.
It'll turn out the dominatrix just was exist, wasn't it? He's like, no, it's been awesome, mate. You're playing cash now, motherfucker. Oh, bloody hell. Oh, we can't even play cash. Oh, not the balls. Oh.
Fucking hell, it killed me there. Oh, that went down the wrong pipe.
That's what he'll be saying.
Little disturbed.
I'll
set you up. So anyway, so they brought in Draken, right? So it immediately...
It's the additions to the team. They're just like the biggest spit in the face of the guy as well. Like, right, sorry, mate, we're going to have to kick you out. Why is that then? Exists available. Excuse me. Anyway, Lecro, sorry, mate, no place for you in this career. You're a young player, you're inconsistent, and at times you don't fit the squad. Anyway, welcome Drake into the team. Yeah. What's going on here?
Yeah, but it was like we even said at the time, well, who's going to be the AWPer? How's that all going? Sorry, who's going to be the AWPer in this team? Like, how are they going to set it all up? If they were to bring Draken in, and now it's like, well, yeah, what's JW going to be doing?
It's the way they try to play that off as well, like a positive, Rich. Like, I remember this is where all I'm going to do is make them look silly using past press releases. Do you remember all the interviews and official comments since they made like the old lineup in 2017 again, where they brought back Olaf Meister and Crims and all those ones from they had the Fnatic and the Godsent re-merged together to make the old lineup. We always listen. To be fair, we wanted to see. You want to see if they had any more legs in them, and what they implied at the time was like, right. We're switching things around again. Then when they made this like with Golden, they were like, right, JW's back to AWPing. He's been waiting so long to get back to that AWPing he has. He fucking can't wait. And now they're just like, he wants to be a hybrid player. He doesn't want to be labelled as AWPer, whatever you guys call him. He's just using AWPs whenever he needs to. And then when he isn't, he's using that rifle he's so famous for.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's madness. Overall, though, right, because I know one thing I will say is there were question marks about Golden's ability to frag. I don't think anyone had any doubts about his tactical mind, his approach to the game, his ability to lead. But certainly on the scoreboard, not the greatest. He was very much sort of in that MSL tier of in-game leader, where it's sort of brain only. So do you think they're better off here? I mean, like, or do you think the lack of sort of a designated in-game leader, the lack of a system is going to cost them?
Oh, I think there'll be a worse team. Like, I actually think this team doesn't look that good at all, to be fair. Like, I will give some room to the idea that, like, technically, I guess we haven't seen exist as in-game leader of a team that wasn't Nip. So, okay, he's got some different people to work with. But, I mean, I've got some content I'm going to do on this soon where, to me, Fnatic has become the new fucking Nip. Look at the names they've got. They've got a whole bunch of people you can't ever cut. And Draken. That's it. So they're in some mad scenario where I could see that, right, bearing in mind, it seems like politics has created this lineup. I could see them riding this lineup with the possibility to remove Draken only for a solid year or two and having very mediocre results and maybe the odd tournament that's like a one-off. Like, I don't see any reason why. Like, there's not even any potential in this squad to me. At least the lineup with Golden had some potential, you know. I don't think they were going to hit number one, but you know what? Where they came from, they were still gone uphill. They were still in a good spot. So I don't know what the fuck they can possibly do with this lineup. It doesn't look that great to me. It looks fairly humdrum.
So let's start breaking down the events then. Do you want to do the one you were at first? Because I told you I don't really count that as a fucking real event. But you went to the city, not because it looked pretty good actually.
150k for first place, mate. That's more than some big events out there.
Yeah, you're right. But again, because Navi won it, it's not real. Let's start with this actually. All right. See, you finally fucking woke up to what I've been telling you about Tyloo, motherfucker. Yeah, with your fucking jerseys, like some little bitch dropping your drawers for free.
I just wait at the right time, mate.
Yeah, mate, the right time was... You get on the fucking train at the start, dickhead. You don't get on at the fucking halfway through. I love this.
I know. I like to wait until someone's got the jam jar right off them running. Like, give me that here. Oh, that was me all, mate. It's all the wrist. It's all the wrist. There we go.
Yeah, but I saw you tweet out that you thought they were one of the most exciting teams currently in coming up in World Counter-Strike. I thought they had another great, good event, good show in here. It's a shame they couldn't have made it to the finals. Really, it would have been great if they could. But semi-finals. There was some okay teams here. NIP, Heroic, EnVyUs, First Pro, Navi are the big names, and Tyloo finished in the semi-finals. So that's not bad for them. What caught your eye this time around? Because I've been saying for a while. I think they've got a real good fucking blend here. And keep in mind, they did play this event with a stand-in because Mo's obviously wrecked his fucking neck. Captain Mo. Don't know how that happened. Apparently he fell off a Segway, is what they're saying. Yeah, mad, isn't it, right? But
unless you're a fucking ball cop or TS agent, what the fuck are you doing riding around a Segway?
I don't know, man.
Didn't even know those were still around.
But I mean, obviously they are fueled by Bentet, who I think is such a fucking legit talent that if Bentet actually, I understand he speaks English, like
mainly as far as I know. That's the thing. He doesn't speak Chinese. That's why the team now has to speak English.
Yeah. So it's like that's an endorsement in itself that the Chinese don't speak Chinese just to enable him to be in the team. But honestly, like, I can't see him playing for Tyloo and putting, like, his numbers are insane. His level of consistency is insane. And he could definitely move into a much better team, in the West for me and have a glittering career. Like, I think he's really good. He's been one of the players of 2018 for me. But anyway, what caught your eye about Tyloo at this event? Why have you changed?
So the main thing is, like, I remember seeing them when they were, like, the big result they obviously had in World Counter-Strike was a few months ago. They had the IEM Sydney where they made top 4. But the problem with that result was that one was a little bit of like a fool's gold result. Because if you remember what happened was, like, people like Renegades and fucking Greyhound team were doing all mad damage at that event. And so as a result, they played Renegades in the winners bracket and winners match of that group, which put you straight in the semis. And then they went out in the semis. So that was kind of like, okay, you are top 4, but that's sort of an easier route. Then they had the Star Series tournament, which was the first one they had to turn up with the same stand-in guy. And at that, the first match, they beat Navi. You ended up winning the fucking tournament. So that's pretty legit when you beat Navi 2-0 on their maps. So you can already see if they're doing that with the standing, actually there's something to this squad. And then they come with the same standing to this tournament. And again, they have some really, really big results. They're beating an IP. They came close to beating VP the first time around. They had a great first map against VP in the semi-finals. So the main thing, first and foremost, is like the results are actually legit when you look across the board of them. Yeah, they had some that were maybe earlier on a little bit easier, but now they've had some against legit teams. These are proper squads that, especially teams. I mean, funnily enough, this is what happened when Virtus Pro played them the first time. Who, if you win in one way, will adapt in the game and do something different and make you have to change it up. They won't just roll over and take the loss like some of the tier 2 squads will if you get a jump on them. So their results are legit. Secondly, the last 2 tournaments, because they played it with the standing, actually bolstered my thoughts even more that they're going to be good, because the standing is shit. Like, not entirely, like, apparently some detail. This is the problem with having players in a scene that we don't follow and can't get insight into. I only found this out during the latter parts of this tournament, was supposedly the standing, AE, is actually supposed to be a primary AWPer. But because in their team, there's no room for that, because Excurate does that, they were just forcing him to be a rifler, and he's just a stand-in. And also, he's Chinese and has to now speak English while they're speaking in some weird hybrid setup in the team. So, to be fair to him, he's in the worst possible circumstance to, like, show off his mad skills. Yeah. But his numbers are terrible, and generally, he's not doing much. Like, in that game they lost to Virtus Pro, he's basically the reason they lost, because he had about 9 kills on the last map, and everyone else was, 25 kills right in the match. So, when you consider what they've done with a stand-in and these these circumstances that are difficult, Rich, then that's already
extenuating.
But then you look at the squad as well. The main thing that drew me in is the style of play. The style of play actually looks so exciting. There's no team plays like this in CSGO, where they just do these like full 5-man busts onto a site, or they just attack on 2 parts of the map at once. And it's like, the idea is, if you do that, this is the genius that, like, you wonder why no one figured this out for the Asian scene before, which is the big problems all the Asian teams have is they fall apart when it gets late in a round in a 2v2 situation, something you can't practice for, basically, or late in a game, a 14-14 situation. What 2 strats do we do to win the game? This is where those teams, you can just bank on them losing. So that Tyloo, by doing this hyper-aggressive style and having a bunch of skilled players, basically cut out all the decision-making. They made it just like, well, do we kill people when we get on the site? Yes, right. Well, you probably went the round then. Did we not manage to? Okay, do it again. And you look at the players they have. Also, they've got this lineup of players which you would never expect to be as good as they are. Like, as you say, Bentet actually is now emerging as like a pretty legit player. He's not looking like a real star talent. Then you've got that guy, Somebody, the one who's been in the team a long time. Yeah. Now, he's not going to put up insane numbers, but like, he's perfectly suited to that super hyper-aggressive playing style. He wreaks havoc on it. Then you've got the Excurate guy, who again is not some star player. Tell you what, his fucking impact's really good though. He'll guarantee
had some good clutches as well.
Yeah, winning clutches, giving like double-digit AWP kills. So you start to look at the squad, and when they get Captain Moback, if they can reintegrate him, they're going to be a fucking exciting team to watch, win or lose.
Yeah, and I think this is good. I keep talking about how we got to crack that fucking Chinese market. So I'll ask your opinion while you were over there. How were because it looked pretty full. I was watching the stream, and the stadium looked like it was pretty full, if not at capacity. The crowd, it didn't seem forced. Obviously, you're old school enough to remember the days like when people were saying, you can't really have events in China, that the fans might not be into it. But then, like, I remember the 1.6 events where the fans fucking loved it, treated guys like Khan and all the Fnatic boys like fucking gods. So I don't know. I always felt China would be a good place for CS:GO if they had their own team like they used to in 1.6. If they could just do well at events, if we put on more events for them of the right caliber. So how was it out there? Were the fans really into it?
It seemed like it, yeah. Like, I don't think it was like an insane number of people in the stadium. If I had to guess, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 or something, looked like about that. If you looked spread out, obviously I'm just spitballing it. I didn't count the number of people, but I will also add in, if you're going to do an event, you should do it like they did, where you just do an event. It's in like the central part of Shanghai, which is obviously a massive like metropolis type city. So again, you only need a little niche of people to be into the game, and they probably can just go to the event. They're not traveling to another country or miles and miles to get to the event. So, and people always say like Shanghai is like the eSports capital of China or whatever. So in that sense, it all makes sense. And the key detail here is, obviously, the game doesn't have to be massive in China, because if you've got that many people playing games, a little niche of them can just be Counter-Strike, and that's going to be enough to do an event. And so, yeah, when you consider some of the events that have failed in the West, I think it was just pretty pretty exciting stuff, especially when, it's not like it had all the best teams in the world. It had a few good teams, and it was sort of like a mixed bag in terms of who you got, I think if you'd have been now I will say, if you're going to have a mixed bag, obviously having VP and NIP certainly helps with like worldwide fans and people who already are going to be into the game. But, I think if you'd have had everyone, if you'd have had the Faze Clans and the Astraluses, now you could have probably done something even better. So I think there's some potential there. Part of the issue is, though, I will say, the fact that we haven't had many events there with the tier 1 teams, I think actually showed in this tournament. Like, I think most teams looked worse because of doing the jet lag the opposite way that they're not used to doing in CSGO, because they've only ever done the Europe to North America one, unless you're American. So I think that might have actually took a toll on the event, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. So we got a pretty, I wouldn't say unlikely final. I thought Navi might get to the final. I didn't expect them to be playing Virtus Pro out there. I wasn't expecting EnVyUs to be the other semi-finalist. I thought Heroic and NIP would have definitely put in a better showing. Strange one. I mean, obviously, it wasn't like there was an amazing caliber of team overall. It wasn't a particularly deep field. But I guess Virtus Pro will fucking take it. Being able to get to a final of any event right now is pretty much unthinkable for them, especially if you look at their online form in the MDL or whatever the fuck they're playing in right now, where I don't even think they've won a game online, losing to teams that are just basically mixes of completely unknown Swedish players like fucking Paper Planes and stuff like this. But yeah, it was a pretty decent run for Virtus Pro. You can only beat what's in front of you. I still think they've got problems. I still think it's probably time for Neo to retire. What did you make of Virtus Pro at this event?
Yeah, unfortunately, this result didn't really mean a lot to me overall, because, like, first of all, they absolutely could have just lost that first match to Tyloo, and in which scenario would be a very different playoff bracket they'd be in. They then end up beating Tyloo, who got back to play them again. But even then, like, the way they beat Tyloo was basically like veteran smarts. Like, the way they played against them in many scenarios just allowed them to sort of win rounds where you didn't win it just by like being the better team or more skilled team or even making like some sick decision, you just sort of did things like let the opponent beat himself when it's in a late round scenario. Just play very conservative at certain points in time when you've got the lead, you've got the economic advantage, things that veterans know how to do to eke out those wins. Then you've got to add in that they did still only narrowly beat Tyloo, and that was with Bialy absolutely fucking going off at this event. Like, he was a legit contender for MVP at this tournament. And
yeah, I was going to say raw
numbers. Like, if you go and watch that. I think it was the first map of the semi-final against Tyloo, the one in Mirage. He, no joke, wins about 7 clutches just himself, as well as dropping, like 30 plus kills. So it was one of those games where it's like, mate, we didn't even lose to Virtus Pro, we just lost to Bialy. Like, we did a sick game and then this guy just went ham. So bearing in mind that hasn't happened very often. He's been certainly a very good player in Virtus Pro the last year, but he hasn't been a superstar. I don't think it's reasonable to look at this as some like revitalization. It seems like this is a one-off, unfortunately.
Yeah, and like you said, I was going to say it was predicated pretty much on Bialy having a good performance. It's a shame, as I said. I think where we're at right now, it's like I don't understand what the call would be. I feel he can only take 3 Virtus Pro players, which isn't really to imply that Pasha needs to be cut from the team or anything. Again, I thought he played well at this event, but it just feels like they never get going in tandem with each other. It's like Bialy goes off. Best I've seen Bialy play in a long, long time. People were saying Bialy's on the gear and all this shit. Vax sucks, loading up really benign, stupid clips of him supposedly cheating. Mihu and Snacks and Bialy, for me, feels like a really good core that you could make work. I think once you start putting some of the veterans into the mix, I think that's where it kind of feels like it's going to fall apart right now. And I thought Pasha did well, but I just still think, this is an anomaly, and Virtus Pro are a long way off being a good team again, a team you can bank to do well at tournaments. And again, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised they actually made a fight at the final and were able to take a map off Navi. Funnily enough, just 2. A map they'd always sort of historically steered away from, picked and gave Navi a spanking on it. I thought the unthinkable was going to happen and that we were going to see Virtus Pro win an event. But after that, the simple show kicked in and Flamey was great this event. I mean, this is the thing.
Shall I give you a little anecdote, Rich? Now, here's the thing. I will totally admit, this is one of the rare anecdotes where, like, in theory, maybe it's questionable to say this, but it isn't, I guess, because you know what? No one told me not to say anything. It wasn't some scenario where explicitly when you're behind the scenes, you know, like this is all secret stuff. I guess in a way, it was sort of a public thing I saw. So after that map one, right, which by the way, in the veto in itself was very bizarre and almost showed you, by the way, that was like VP almost admitting like we know there's no way we could win the series straight up. So what they did instead was play Dust 2, a map which classically was their permaban, a map which they'd only played themselves something like 4 times online and had won once against like Heroic or someone who was in like Flux, you know, and had lost to a bunch of not even that great teams. So doing this pick, while yes, Navi didn't have any history on it, was like smacked of pure desperation. But you know what? It goes perfectly. They smash the T side, they win with ease. And as I'm walking out to go downstairs to watch map 2, I see the Virtus Pro guys like sort of stood like talking, getting ready to go back in the room and play, and they're just laughing. They're going like, and then when they see me, they almost like can't contain their laughter. And then obviously just get that absolute ever-loving shit pushed in to the extent that you'd think fucking Navi had an endoscope or something.
I mean, it was ridiculous.
But that's the idea of like the old fucking don't count your chickens before they've hatched. Tell you what, bloody, it's hilarious the way. Oh bloody hell, what's going on?
The thing I'll say is though, again, that like I don't count this as a real event. I don't think this makes me have to.
The thing is though, why did they do that? Navi. Like basically, I guess the point I was trying to get at with that story I didn't hit was like that just shows you how bad the mentality is in that team. Like they're so delusional. They really do think that if one thing goes well again, they're like, I knew that was just bad luck. We're back. They're like the equivalent of the guys, right? Where the second they get into their fighter pilot, they're calling the fucking flyby on the tower, like, go, let's do it, Goose. Like, you know, in fucking Top Gun where he does that, he's just getting absolutely bollocked for it. That's like their move instantly. Like, it's like, well, at least wait until you've done a mission or something, for fuck's sake.
You know, I disagree. I think they're at the stage now where they don't give a fuck. I think that's where we're at. In fact, I realized that I said I was going to bring up Sixer and didn't do it. So I'll segue into just bringing up.
I mean, he's just irrelevant, isn't he?
Yeah. It's easy to forget about him. Hopefully, people can forgive me. But you know, I think it's just fair to say at this stage now they don't give a fuck. And what would their motivation be for giving a fuck? What would their motivation be? They are overpaid massively for what they bring because you're pretty much reliant on this whole Golden 5 concept, which is now just irrelevant because Pasha wasn't even in the Golden fucking 5, and so it's Neo. You know, that's where it's at right now. It's like Theseus's ship. And Neo is a big part of the reason why this team is underperforming and not, you know, delivering at tournaments. So why would these players care now? You know, you're in your 30s, you've got kids, you've got wives, girlfriends, lives, you've got more money in the bank than probably even the wealthiest fucking Polish people. Like literally, these guys are getting paid $25,000 a month or something insane. Like you've got a team owner that can give you. Like, I don't even know what the national salary in Poland is, but I'm gonna go out on a limb. I
guess like $1,500 a month or something, you know.
Yeah, right. So think about that. It reminds me of the Navi situation. Remember when Navi had that great 2010, all that hunger? But do you remember them at the end? Do you remember how they were at the end when it was just turn up, laugh, high five each other, post photographs?
Actually, apparently, the average salary for a man in Poland is $500 a month.
There you go. Right. So again, you know, it's not. I'm not trying to make any weird fucking points disparaging Poland.
That's just depressing, and we're doing a Brexit.
Love.
So now the old faucet's cut off, isn't it? So.
Right. Love, you know, but the reality is, what is the motivation? These people still live there, and you're making $25,000 a month. You got a team owner that can give you a Mercedes for a performance. You know that time is against you. Your body's kind of failing in the ability to deliver top tier performances. Now it's just kind of show up, wave to the fans, and put out like tweets about how you're definitely going to get it, and it'll click eventually. Now the people who do give a fuck. are the young guys, the people that, you know, sure, Snacks and Piali have still had the benefit of the salary, but they haven't been showered with trophies. They're still young. They've got like a long career ahead of them. There might even be a little bit of resentment about how they're being held back a little bit right now. You know, you've got Mihu. This is his first shot at the big time. You know, there's definitely a hunger issue within the team and has been for a while. Say what you will about Taz. I always fucking believed him when he said, like, all I give a fuck about is winning. Like, I do legitimately believe that. I don't think Taz was a guy who was like, I'm just in it for the money. I don't know about the others anymore. And I wouldn't blame them for getting complacent. Like, when you start making mad cash, as I'm sure you know, Duncan, you do have a tendency to phone things in a little bit. You know what I mean? It's just how it is.
Indeed.
Just like this podcast, mate. That's what I was driving at. So I don't know. I think Virtus Pro has still got all sorts of problems for me.
They got.
And now I can segue into my sixer point because
you're talking about Captain Moore.
Yeah,
just don't fall off. Speaking of falling off, all the players we're talking about now.
Yeah. Well, so Sixer's one of the. He's the same motherfucker. So first of all, he tweeted. He said, "End of an era." I know, mate.
What the fucking check stealing era? What's it? It's like Catch Me If You Can. You've been pretending to be a Counter-Strike player for 2 years. Tom Hanks is on your ass.
I'm sure he's a fucking nice guy. But yeah, saying the end of an era. I don't know what fucking era it was, mate. But here's the other thing. Let me tell you something about Sixer that is so evident in his play. He's another guy who's come over from 1.6 who just don't respect the game. He just doesn't respect the game. If you've ever wondered why Sixer is bad, it's not because he doesn't have the talent. Because if you ever saw him play 1.6, if you remember him in Millennium, it's not ancient history. You took him 5 years ago. He was a fucking beast. One of the best Storpers in the world. He was fucking sick. So you know he can get there. You know he can do it. Sure, you can say, oh, it's a different game. But I watch him do things in game that if you played the game religiously, you would know you can't do that. You can't spam there. You don't hold that angle. You don't do this. You don't do that. You can't bounce a flash off there. There's no skybox there. You know, these are things that when you see these drilled players that play religiously, like, oh, I don't know, Simple, who's probably got more hours than anyone else and just so happens to be the best player in the world, you watch Sixer play, and he's like making these mistakes that it's like, fuck, you're a pro player. You should really know you can't do that. And it reminds me a lot of like, I remember when, going back to like the CGS, I remember when Zet came and started playing Counter-Strike Source, and everyone was like, fucking hell, Zet's playing for complexity. This is huge. Like, he didn't give a fuck. He believed the lie that Counter-Strike Source was so easy you could just spray and get kills that he ran around and embarrassed himself the entire fucking season. I see it with a lot of these like old schoolers, like just set in their ways. You did a video about it actually, where you were talking about like, do you practice and what's your practice like, you know, and sure. How hard do you practice, and you know, and you can tell Sixer doesn't do any of that shit, and he'd be a fucking liar if he listened to this clip and came out and said, oh yeah, just admit it. You turn up and you think you can aim your way out of trouble. And you don't practice. You're not like a Guardian. You know, you're not like a Kenny S, and you never will be. But you could be, but you just don't want to be. Fuck your kind of era. that was the point I wanted to make there. I don't got anything to add to it.
Problem is, it's just about Navi. No joke. If you just look and you forget all the history and all that, you just watch him as a player in CSGO. He's a dreadful player, and he is a player who insists on being like, I can only use the op. It's like, first of all, you can't even use that. So I don't know what your fucking metric for use is. Like, you can be given an op and you can press mouse 1 and it makes the sound of shooting the gun. That's about it. You know, like some people might coincidentally die every now and then while you do that around you, but there's not even a direct cause and effect there, largely. So absolute drain on your team, unfortunately, in that sense. I don't know what he's like as a teammate, so I can't comment on whether he adds to the team like spirit or whatever. I can't imagine having a guy with an AWP who's never killing anyone, who's fucking getting wrecked all the time, helps everything out.
Tell that to Shocks.
Does seem a bit. He never listen. I think their relationship goes beyond Counter-Strike. So then you've also got the whole aspect where he does look a bit emo when you see some of his tweets, etc. So it's probably not. I'm going to have to speculate. Not an amazing teammate in that particular sense, but even worse. Does generally see, like, here's one of the things that I can always, is always a warning sign, like a red flag to me, is when someone is like objectively terrible in the game, Like, to the extent that it's not even like other pros are like, nah, I think, you just don't really see what he does for the team. No, everyone stay silent, even your own teammates. When that happens, but then the player themselves is like pissed off at you for pointing out that they're bad, but not either, got cognizant enough that they are bad, or even better, doing the effort to get out of being bad. That's a mad red flag for me. It shows you just live in some mad bubble of cognitive dissonance, and you just think it's everyone else's fault that you're getting shit on and that you're doing badly in the game. You're just not a good player. So, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, well, the only reason you've even seen him in CSGO, basically, is because he had those 2 chances to come into this EnVyUs squad when they needed someone, literally anyone, and he's gotten to come in. And the maddest is, obviously, he did win that WASG with them, because that's just how fucked the world is, really,
Yeah, I remember when he first came in, and because didn't he replace Devil, if I remember rightly?
Yes.
Yeah, and he played really well. There's probably tweets on my timeline if people want to dig him up, saying Devil was dog shit, which is true, and Sixer was a good replacement. He started strong, and then I don't know, it went from fucking just bad to worse to the point where he's at now, and that alone tells me that I don't think this guy practices anywhere near enough. Navi win another tournament. As I said, do not count this tournament as a real tournament. Don't think I've got to revise anything about Navi or anything I've said before, but they'll fucking take it. It's money in the bank. Zeus can get back to posing with Ferraris when he's the most fucking, to quote my boy Forgiven, giga boosted in-game leader of all fucking time. Edward actually, to give him his credit, I still think his decision making is terrible. He still dies with full utility way too much. He still pushes smokes stupidly aggressively without flashing all the time, but he's actually putting numbers up enough that Navi can win a tier 2 tournament like this pretty comfortably. Do I need to revise Navi? Am I being too harsh? Like, could Navi actually somehow transition, having won that tournament in Kiev, mitigating circumstances, having won this? Can they now go on and win an actual tournament that I'm going to have to eat a big slice of humble pie for?
Like, the big concern for Navi is that, like, in this tournament, they didn't play that well. But then again, like I said, no one really did, like, it was a lot of teams who just kind of had, like, decent performances, or they'd pull it out for a map, and look good. But, like, actually, Simple seemed, for his level, mortal at this event. He had a number of maps where he wasn't just dominating the game, So I don't really count this event too much. Yeah, you're right. Like, it doesn't change anything. When I consider the other event, I will say, as events have gone on this year, I do think Navi has gotten better in terms of playing like an actual team and actually having some coherent style. But it is always with the caveat that you do have what looks like the best player to ever play Counter-Strike in full prime mode. So the real question would be, what if this was a massive stacked tournament with all the best teams, and Simple turned up either in this form or even just as an actual normal human in the game? What the fuck would happen then? And yeah, I agree. I don't think they would be the number 2 team in the world then. I think they would probably be like the number 7 team in the world, and they would probably go out in the quarterfinals. So, yeah, unfortunately, as much as things have shored up a bit around him, and I do think they definitely know how to make use of him better, I don't think that, like, essentially they are literally boosted. I mean, it's not even a diss. You just look, they've got the best player ever, and someone who's not even the best player, like, within the context of a system. He's the most ridiculous, like, almost like pre-packaged individual star player who can hard carry from any spot and position you could ever want, who then you're barely winning some of the matches and getting deep. So it sounds harsh, but it's just the reality, I think.
Yeah. So just before we go into talking about Belo Horizonte, lots to talk about there. There's a guy who follows me on Twitter called Real Jerry. He's done photoshops and stuff before. Okay. While we were talking, he quickly knocked something up of Flusha. So I'll let Sam bring that up now. You can have a look. It's in the chat if you want to have a look, Duncan. It's not bad. And I think it proves my point of what I was saying, which Flusha does look like you should be carrying a banjo at all times. It's actually very fucking...
Thing is, though, like, and I'm not going to comment on the fact, the head's too big or whatever. It's like, he wouldn't play it with a plectrum, would he? He'd be using his grizzly fingers that'd have fucking pepperami juice on them or something.
Pepperami.
Except that'd make him better, because then it'd just be like the twang would be on.
Slimy.
Oh my God! You know what, Richard? Yeah. How have we missed this line? So think about who he's been in a team for a long time, and what is the famous line of that guy in Deliverance?
Well, you've got a purty mouth. I bet you can squeal like a pig. Oh, wow, yeah.
How did that not get used?
Yeah, how did I was going to go there as well.
That's just begging to be used.
There. Yeah, innit? Squeal like a pig, boy. Whee!
No, not you. The new guy.
Yeah, golden. So anyway, let's talk about Belo Horizonte, an event in Brazil. Before we even get into talking about the events that occurred, there was one event that leapt out, and I didn't give an opinion on it. But it did lead to, but again, it's been a raw podcast. I got out the wrong side of bed. I don't give a fuck. And I did make a sort of semi-joking tweet about it. But there was an incident with Major, obviously playing for Space Soldiers. He was talking about when they played their game there, and they lost to SK 2-0 in a rematch from a group stage series or a day one series that they had. And apparently, as he was coming back through the crowd, he was sort of getting pushed and cajoled. Because if you watched the tournament, you would see that it was very, very close proximity to the crowds. There was lots of abuse being hurled at them, and he said he was spat on, which. It's
outrageous.
Yeah. Now listen, I always feel that I gotta put the caveat in here, and me and Duncan. It doesn't matter how many times we include this caveat, because we'll never get credit for including it, and nor will it be acknowledged that we did include it. We don't believe all Brazilian fans are like this. We don't. We know they're not.
Sure.
We think we know that the vast majority of Brazilian fans across all sports are the same as sports fans anywhere else in the world. We know that. But you've got to say that also there has been this hardcore contingent, this minority, that are just out of fucking control, mate, when it comes to Brazilian esports. I've said it before. I certainly wouldn't want to go to an event in Brazil based on the actions of the
people would be shocked how many people, players included, will never come forwards and say it, but do not want to go to events in Brazil.
Yeah. And listen, and it's not because we all saw the good parts to it. I'm even going to show you the good part here because I believe in balance and presenting both sides. But we all saw how it was a great crowd and a passionate crowd. And we all saw the pictures of them pouring adoration on Fallen. And we all saw how, like, even though there wasn't a Brazilian team in the final, lots of fans stuck around to cheer, show their appreciation for what was a great event. But the reality is, I have never heard of a pro player being spat on ever at any other esports event. And I don't have the confidence, unfortunately, about events in Brazil that these issues are going to be dealt with. That person that spat on Major, he wasn't caught, he wasn't accosted, no other fans got a hold of him, no security got a hold of him. We already know, we've had like Freiburg talking about how people were threatening to kill him. The famous Hiko example of having to have bodyguards. There was the email that was sent out to players for ESL Sao Paulo, which still hasn't ever been publicly acknowledged, where players were literally told after a certain time, you must stay in your hotel room, and if somebody knocks on the door, you must absolutely not let them in because you will be robbed at gunpoint. This is an issue for me, and I'm sorry it's an issue.
Which, to put in context, is obviously not ever the case in any other country.
Well, and look, there are obviously other countries where there are issues as well, right? But certainly, I think that the esports fans in Brazil have really pushed again, this tiny minority, however you want to frame it, but it's definitely been pushed past a point that seems unreasonable to me. Like, I'll take the death threats online all day. Like, if I reported every death threat I had in Portuguese to the police, it would just clog up the entire system. It would just be like, that's just standard. I'm sure it's the same for you. But the reality is, like, I don't know, this event wasn't talked about, and everyone was very keen at the end to say, yeah, the fans were great. Everything was great. It's like, this isn't great. We've had a pro player being spat on. Like, this is the type of thing that gets you a lifetime ban from sports stadiums. If you spat on a professional football player as he was coming out of the tunnel, you would be found and you would be arrested, you would be charged, and you would be banned from football for life. Is anybody even trying to investigate this? I saw some people saying, look, you could see the camera. He clearly wasn't spat on. It's like 10 seconds of footage from what was clearly like a 2-minute ring entrance, you know? Major wouldn't lie about this. This is something that I've never heard of, and I'm amazed more people aren't taking it seriously, honestly.
Well, one of the problems I noticed was, first of all, the other area in which the bad vocal minority of Brazilian fans are unbearable is they also in terms of like the context is they also refuse to acknowledge that any of this happens, even though they themselves are doing it all. They'll be like, no, like I've told you the classic example is they'll say, no, you do, we just do that to you, Thorin, because you've baited us and made fun of us. All right, let me know when Hiko's mom on her Facebook made fun of you all and demanded death threats from you all, and that was appropriate, shall you? You know, basically, you can give dozens of examples of people who've done fuck all, and have gotten the same exact treatment that I have, and the difference they still don't get to this day is that's why I go ham on them. Because it's like, if I'm going to get it anyway, well, fuck it. I'm gonna fire a few back as I'm going down. You know, like it's not a problem for me. I don't give a fuck if people are going off like that. I'm not gonna go, oh, bloody, better not make it worse. You know, like, because I already seen how bad it is, no matter what. Then you've got to add in that, because you have these shit tier fans, and by the way, they are so active on Reddit that I'm not even joking when I say that, like, when I see an SK flare on Reddit, I just take that as though it was like I'd blocked them in RES and go, right, skip that comment, go to the next one, because it's just pure shit. Like, they'll be in threads. This, you know, we used to have an old joke in 1.6 that's come true again, which was the joke that all the pro players had in 1.6 is if you ever went on hltv.org and the thread was like, you know, oh, will Markelov be the best player in 2010?
Portuguese fans.
There'd just be a post by someone with a Brazilian flag that just said Kogu.
Oh, right.
And it wouldn't even be an opinion. It wouldn't be relevant.
About the Fox fans.
No, and it'd just be mindless shit that's just like making signal noise to an actual discussion. And that's on HLTV.org forums, where, you know, it's not exactly the most intellectual discussion anyway. But you basically just wasted everyone's fucking time. So those sorts of fans all came out and drowned out any real discussion about the topic of Major getting pushed by repeating, because they'll go into threads, by the way, Rich, as well, and you'll click on their account and they've posted 10 times the same thing in the same thread. Mods never deleted a call, because we all know how fucking mods roll. And the same fans will always say stuff like, oh, but that was just one person. What, you're just going to judge everyone by one person? No. What he said was one person spit on him and other people were pushing him, and then many people, presumably, were hurling abuse at him. So you've already just lied about the facts there and downplayed the whole context.
Yeah, well, what was interesting as well was I made the point that they were chanting, like, you're going to die.
That's a classic thing, by the way. I told you that comes from MMA.
Yeah, they do that in MMA, and you know, they're chanting, you're going to die. And I tweeted that out, and Brazilian fans are replying, going, you do know it's a video game where you get shot and you die. Reasonable. And it's like, guys, like, are we going to continually? This is why I think I have to keep.
Well, maybe that's it, Rich. Maybe we were wrong. Actually, what KNG was saying was that unless FNS was able to prove his assertion, then next time they played Counter-Strike, he would kill him with an AK-47 in the video game only.
Yeah. You know, it's like I say, right? As long as, because I don't believe the people who were replying to my tweet are the same kind of fans that would chant that, or would spit on someone, or would push somebody, or would make a death threat to somebody over something fairly innocuous, like, you know, I don't think it's those people. But you cannot have any form of discourse about what you do with this really loud, vocal, unreasonable minority that are giving Brazilian fans a bad reputation, because the fans that get the bad reputation because of this small minority, they're defending the small minority. They're saying, oh, you can't judge us all because of what these guys are doing. But also, by the way, what those guys are doing, there's an excuse for it. It's like, guys, what happened to... it's just bizarre. It's like every time something bad happens, everybody puts pressure on anyone that's even tangentially linked to it to condemn it. Like, unilaterally, universally, you must condemn, you must disavow. Well, It never happens when we have these talks about this tiny minority within the Brazilian fan base, you know. And it's like I say, this for me is like something I'm never going to forget, even though I wasn't at the event. I've never heard of a player being spat on. People were tweeting at me going, "You thought it was funny when somebody made Olaf high five a big black dildo?" Yeah, because that's funny and
that
harmless.
is funny. Yeah,
yeah. Do you see the difference? Someone spitting on me while hurling abuse as I go to play a game or just after I've lost a game. Somebody making me high five a rubber dick without my knowledge. Like do you know what I mean? It's not the same. And this is what I mean. It's this disingenuous fucking arguments about it. I have never heard of that. Now, again, I said I'll balance it out. And Major, you don't even know what the motivations are for sort of having to come out and say this.
I mean, to be fair, I'm already worried, Rich, when he made that like comment afterwards. Like, yeah, but the crowd was. But it's like, you're stuck in Brazil. You haven't left the event yet, mate. So, you know, if I saw the backlash, I mean, I wouldn't personally. I'd just throw more fire on it. But, you know, normal people would probably just try and wind it back in.
Yeah, and I think he felt a little bit of pressure to do this, but he did put out a tweet that that I think proves my point, and that is that obviously it's not all fans, and if you feel this way, like do something about it. Like,
why is that always the way it is though? Like it's always like this, Rich. Like in this scenario, say Major had just said, yeah, as I was walking out, someone punched me in the face, and then all the fans who were there who didn't punch me in the face, like, why are you commenting on being punched in the face? Why not comment on all of us that didn't punch you in the face? It's like, what is this stupid logic, you know?
Well, so this Brazilian fan wrote him a letter basically saying, you know, Brazil loves space soldiers. You played against our favorite team. Our heart is large. We can fit you all in. I'm really sorry that somebody spat on you and gave you so much abuse. And it's like, obviously, you don't need to apologize for that. But equally, we've got to start acknowledging. I mean, why do we keep pretending that it's not always this small group? Like, why are we having to pretend that it's events in Brazil? It's these literally diehard fans that are threatening players. And Brazil's an emerging esports market, by the way.
Sure.
Right? It's got huge potential. Shit like this is fucking. People have got to get a handle on it, and I don't care where it comes from. I don't care if it's tournament organizers tracking down people who engage in this shit. I don't care if it's like organizations saying until you know, the death threats stop, we're going to show solidarity with our fellow players, and we're not going to attend events in Brazil, you know, unless we get guarantees. I don't know what has to happen, but like we can't keep just fucking saying, yeah, player got spat on. You can't tar us all with the same brush, though. I mean, first of all, no one is doing that. But we've got to talk about why shit like that keeps going on, man. It's so fucking dumb. Like, no player should get fucking spat on. Like, I'm amazed I'm having to say that on an esports podcast. Honestly.
Yeah, but this is half the problem. I mean, funnily enough, this just seems to be. I wish this is one of those times when I wish I knew someone who like could speak to some like deep insight on the psychological makeup of fans in sports in Brazil or something. You know, you need someone who's obviously very specialized in that sense, because this like mentality is rife throughout their whole scene. So you look at the pro players they have there. They are players who never accept responsibility, who always go like, but what about other stuff? If they do anything wrong, and they also try to use some sort of mad false equivalency every time they fuck up in some way. But someone else did something not even vaguely comparable or similar. That's the same, isn't it? It's like, not at all. So again, people will contrast, but in sports, right? First of all, in sports, people aren't just spitting in the face of Cristiano Ronaldo when he goes to the game. That's definitely not happening. And if they are, they would absolutely be removed, and there'd be a camera on them at all times. There'd be a steward there, you know.
The worst thing I ever heard in football was, you remember Luis Figo?
Yes.
Who played for Barcelona and Real Madrid.
Yeah, monster.
Yeah, a beast, right? Well, when he was at Madrid, when he was in,
is this where he got like a coin thrown at him or something?
No, it was a pig's head.
Reasonable.
Which, first of all, I don't even know how you smuggle a fucking pig's head into a football stadium. Like,
ask Flusha.
Inside a football, mate.
but if you can go Google this, it's a pretty famous example. While he went to take a fucking corner or a free kick or something, someone literally threw a fucking pig's head at him, which is like the maddest thing I've ever heard. Like, so I mean, I'm not, but I'm pretty sure the person who threw that pig's head probably is
banned for life, I would assume.
Yeah, probably had some action taken against him.
Leave him. He's just passionate.
Yeah, right. But arguably, having a pig's head thrown at you, I'd rather that than be spat on, I think. So I'm just saying, but that's the worst I ever heard in football anyway. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it just fucking saddens me. Because it's like, I know that I said it like 4 years ago. It's like one of the next big areas of growth is going to be Brazil, South American territories. We're going to have like tier 1 events out there. But honestly, there's just like, I understand there's problems in the country, political problems that you can't do anything about, but you don't have to bring this like weird, fucked up like ideology of like it's do or die levels of national pride. Like, put it this
way, here's one thing that could actually
I don't want that in esports.
This is one thing that could genuinely overnight start to correct this problem. Is that it's so rare you actually, first of all, I actually doubt that it's like 10 people, because I know it's not only are there the same names, but there's like, I've had hundreds and hundreds. It's like a new account every time, of people who'd say this sort of shit. So I think there's a decent undercurrent of idiots. Admittedly, I'd go ahead and assume it's not the majority. But one of the ways you could instantly start to turn this bad rep around that Brazil's got is, first of all, if all the cool people not only were like, you know what, I don't do that, but actively were like, you know what, I disagree with that. I think that's fucked up. That would be a great way to show that it's not just this little minority that seems to us like the majority, because that's all we're hearing from. So it makes it look like all Brazilian fans are terrible. So don't instead make shit false equivalencies and make excuses for people who, if you aren't the one doing it, aren't doing the stuff that you're doing. Why are you making excuses for the arsehole if you're a cool guy? And then the other aspect is you must fucking drop this ridiculous paranoia of insecurity of like, oh, everyone just abuses us all because we're Brazilians. No, the main reason people go balls deep on fucking Brazilians online is because of this shit. It makes everyone else in the scene just like, you know what, I'm either not going to engage or fuck Brazilians. That's what people's mentality becomes. And so, yes, you know what, fans who have no bounds on their behaviour are going to go fucking in on you and make out like you're all morons, probably even say some racial stuff if they want to fuck with you. That's going to happen. And the part of that is as a cause and effect to what these shit fans are doing. So it's not a coincidence that Brazilian fans also get the most abuse as well online as giving out the most abuse. That is a cause and effect approach. And so if you're a moderate person, make it clear you don't give a fuck about any of that. And just as a result, I'm not saying you have to do it. Like, you're not obliged responsibly to say that, but you will just create a better reputation around Brazilian esports. You'll make people think, oh, it's just a few idiots doing that. Whereas at the moment, that's all you see. It's a vocal minority, but because they're vocal, that's all you see.
Yeah. So other than that, marring the event, as I said, it really did fucking put a sour taste in my mouth about it. It had some great moments, obviously, notably the final. We'll get to that in a second. One thing I will say is, if Brazilian fans were going to this tournament kind of looking forward to seeing an SK resurgence, it didn't quite work out like that. And certainly we'll start by talking about the other Brazilian team that was in attendance, NTC. They were terrible. I mean, when you consider there was a lot of high hopes around this team. People were wondering, what's going to happen? You've got FNX, you've got KNG, you've got Phelps. Sure, they lost the twins, but this is still, bit. Everyone's excited about that. Old school guy coming back to be the in-game leader. But they were really, really bad. I mean, like, there's just the first map against Mousesports on Train was abysmal. I think it was like 16-3. They also lost to Big, and I don't know, like and they had a blowout in that as well on Dust 2, right? So they is this project kind of dead in the water? Because the rumor was these were meant to be the SK team, the future SK team.
Yes.
They're in Germany right now, But honestly, this is like a fucking lame duck. Like, this is looking like a waste of everyone's time.
Yeah, this is the problem. Is like, first of all, obviously a bunch of these players haven't played on LAN in months and months and months since last year. So I still think you look at the talent. It's not impossible they could go to more LANs and start to become half decent to good, but it's obviously not a good look, especially because the context of the team is because it's all people who have their own issues as to why they're not in a team like SK or in the Immortals in the past. they're a team where they almost had to hit the ground running because the hype was, right, sure, some of them might have had a bad attitude or might have not fit in the squad. But you know what? In practice, they're killing everything. That's what everyone said coming into the major. You know what? You look at the talent, you think they could do it, So that sort of team basically has to work because they can't start at nothing and work their way up. They don't have the personnel to do that. They don't have the mentality to do that. People like FNX seemingly are not going to be the sort of leaders in that particular sense. So you really needed all that talent to come out pretty much almost immediately in the server, and then you go, right, talent can carry him. So this was terrible, and when you consider how many months they've waited for this time to come along, what a waste of time. Like this team's just a prison for Phelps at this point in time.
Well, how long has this, when did the Twins leave? How long has this been a fight?
That was a few months ago, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely had time to get some semblance of shit together. I don't know. Did they? Let me just quickly check.
They qualified for this event, I believe.
Yeah.
Online.
Yeah, they went through the online qualifiers. But for me, it's like, I don't know. When is it gonna click? Like when is?
Especially as like, what other fucking tournaments are they going to go to? Right?
Yeah. Seems crazy to me. I mean, this would have been like,
and you're on home soil. That's probably the most damning element, isn't it? Like, come on, man. Everyone else is having to go to Brazil. People don't even know. Again, this is one of those areas where I love the fucking commentators just sucking the dick of the crowd 24/7. It's like, well, if the crowd does have a magical effect, you're inadvertently saying NTC and SK are super shit, you morons. They're on home soil in their own country with no time zone issues, and the whole crowd giving them a fucking magic spirit bomb out of Dragon Ball Z, and they're still getting dicked on. Like, you are aware that when you big that up, it has the opposite side has to be equivalent as well, right? It doesn't make any sense otherwise.
So the other Brazilian team in action, SK Gaming, bit of an up and down event for them. I think a lot of people felt they were destined to kind of get to the final here. It's an event in Brazil, typically do well on home soil, definitely needed a result. Yeah, I feel like we're going to tread old ground, so I won't talk too much about it. But it looks like this will probably be the last event under the SK banner. I think we can safely say that. Any hopes of the big MIBR reveal being at this event were quickly shot down at the start of it. And certainly in that investigation that ESL conducted showed that there was absolutely no conflict of interest ever, despite ESL employees having shares in teams like G2, for example. That's all okay, though. No conflict of interest there. Just a little
The sad thing is, Rich, that's not even shocking at this point in time. I mean, when you consider Refresh just owns a team and a league, and then obviously ES Force just has everything. So you know what? Why are you being greedy? Let ESL get in on it. Let them just
Well, I mean, look, obviously one of those people is, Jens Hilger's all done through Bitcraft Holdings, but I think there's another guy in there too. But whatever. No one cares about conflict of interest, although Valve are starting to, which is good news. So maybe that'll motivate a few people. I'll certainly be letting Valve know. I'm keeping my eye on you all.
Problem is, every time you're in a scenario like that, Rich, where it's not explicitly illegal, I always just remember that video you made where it was you reading out all the replies to that Phantom Lord video you made, and it was like 99% of them were just like, first of all, factually completely inaccurate. It was all people like, well, you were gambling a lot too. It's like, that wasn't, but okay. And then half of them were like, you destroyed a good man's career for nothing. It's like, I didn't know, did I? Just reported what he did. Like, why am I the bad guy? They're the ones doing all the criminal shit. Just leave it, will you? He's just trying to make himself a career. Why are they like this?
It's wild as fuck, innit, man? Like, I could tell you some fucking stories. It's insane. Like, the messages you get sent are the best ones. But anyway, so SK Gaming were here. Obviously, eventually went out the tournament after losing to Mousesports. But as we did say, they did lose a series to Space Soldiers. Yes. So still very much up and down. And obviously, they were losing to Mousesports with a stand-in, which we'll talk about in just a moment.
Instead of Mousesports' best player.
Yeah, exactly. So I still kind of feel it's the same old, but hallelujah. After this event, it's like they listen to the podcast. It's like players listen. There was an interview with Cold Zero, and he said, Fallen is going back to in-game leader, and we will now only have one in-game leader. We won't change it for maps. So who knew that the terrible fucking experiment that clearly couldn't work, would never work, who knew that they would have to change it back eventually? So, but I'm glad that they did, and I think this was a good catalyst for them because it was the same old SK game, and we've been talking about for the past few months now. Stewie, it was feast or famine for him. Nobody really could sort of get going to the level they used to be at. And in the end, it was pretty comfortable for Mousesports. They won the first map 16-7, took the second map Train, which, SK are always competitive on to a degree, 16-12. Just easy, just a 2-0 series. So, as you said, they weren't able to even get going on home soil. Is MIBR and this reversion back to the way things should be, can they make this roster with Stewie and Bolts work moving forward? Are MIBR getting a good deal here?
No. I mean, the big problem immediately is I think they've played about like 6 or 7 LANs of Stewie 2K. It's not like it's the second LAN and it's like, right, well, adapting and still learning, speaking in English and all that. No, it's been a lot of LANs and overwhelmingly the results have been fucking shit relative to who's in the team. Remember, if you would have gone back last year, Richard, and told people, no matter who they change, as long as we keep Fallen, Fur and Coldzera in this team, do you think we'll ever have this team going out in last place, bombing out before group? People would tell you it's impossible. Remember, people were going mental over those players. Like they were, like each one of them was some godlike player who was so above everyone else in his role. And what you found out is, you know what? Being able to speak Portuguese, having a call that's been together, these factors clearly helped them massively in that squad and then allowed them to look like these fabulous players. And without that, some of them, given the task of just fragging, I mean, by the way, that is such delicious irony to me that the same people who banged on the Nikos and Simples of the world, like, well, actually, it's easier to look good in a bad team. How are your players doing now in this dog shit team? Or worse than ever? Well, that's fucking just beautiful, isn't it? Well, they must be just terrible players then. What? And with the magical fans chanting their fucking name. Rufio. Yeah, it didn't help, did it? They didn't do shit, did they? Also, in fact, actually got murked a bit like Rufio. Spoiler. It's not really a spoiler. It's not even that good a movie. Don't go watch it. It's all right. It's a decent movie. It's all right. But no, the main issue for SK, I think, is I do think this change back to Fall as the in-game leader can help. I noticed them hinting that they're going to get a coach. I think that's a pretty good move if you look at it. They're the only top team that doesn't have a coach, to my knowledge. So I definitely don't know why they've been so stubborn in that respect. So I do think that they could get a bit better, but the problem is a bit better right now, when you consider how many LANs they've played, would probably be being like, here's the problem. If I say a ranking number, people are going to have to realize that obviously they started at a good ranking when they brought Stewie in, so they've been dropping off from that. So I think a good place for this team would be like 7th best team in the world. And quite frankly, that cannot be acceptable if you've got Coldzera and you've got Fern, you've got these players and ones with and especially players where the org's definitely gone balls deep, getting you on them. They're probably paying fucking king's ransom to get you over there. That's just not good enough. You have to be shooting for number 1. So to me, this is a team that has got to make some sort of roster moves, and that's all within the caveat that Stewie 2K is signed to Immortals for God knows how much money, and so you have got a massive contractual problem on your hands for the next year or two, basically.
Yeah, and again, I honestly think like they're gonna do something to make the lineup all Brazilian. Because again, it's like I don't.
How can you not at this point in time? It's not even about Stewie 2K necessarily. I mean, it isn't as much he doesn't fit the team, but it's just such obvious mismatch. There's no real way to bridge it, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, but it's not just that. It's like I say, it's like the fundamental branding issue, and like it's obviously owned by Noah Winston. He's got Immortals. He's got fucking LA Valiant or whatever. And now he's got Made in Brazil. Well, if the purpose of that is to be Brazil and South American focused, then why have you got this American player running around on the roster? Seems like a fucking really like stupid branding decision.
Yeah, at this point in time, he's got to do something smart. He's either got to have his fucking brother be the owner of MIBR and just have 2 teams, having Immortals and MIBR, or if he's not quite that sort of transparent, maybe just give some more from ESL shares in MIBR.
Why not, right? Just give it time.
Everything kosher, yeah, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, it was SK. It was a shame they couldn't make it to the final. Probably would have made it a better occasion. But the final we did get absolutely fucking delivered across the board. It was great. Another example of a best of 5 final, which, you know, when they work, they really work well. So Mousesports made it all the way to the final where they faced Faze. Let's talk a little bit about Mousesports. As you rightly pointed out, had to use a stand-in. So a stand-in for their best player, or one of their best players, certainly their key AWPer, Oscar, hugely influential in the team. Don't know why he didn't travel to fucking Brazil. Don't know what that was about, whether he just needed a break, whether it was a visa issue. He was actually streaming, Duncan, right? And I've told people this before. Oscar is a fucking weird dude. Like, he is a strange cat. He is a strange cat. He has like mad personality fluctuations in terms of like confidence and stuff. Like, he's just a weird dude. But he was fucking streaming, right? The other day, there was this clip where as he was playing, like he was a fucking Disney princess or something, his like pet bird like came and like landed on him and was like, like fucking Dozier throwing a grenade. And the guy's just fucking weird, dude. I just don't know what else to say about this guy. It's like, you know, there's probably a reason along those lines, like why he didn't want to travel to fucking to Brazil. But they got nothing, which is probably love you, Jordan. But if I wanted to replace one of the best AWPers in the world, I don't think I'll go for a veteran NA support player who hasn't played in a while. I don't think that I would do that. But Mousesports did, I'm guessing, because he already had the paperwork and could travel to Brazil, and it was just a quick fix, and you know, it was all done quite quickly. Unbelievably, it seemed to fucking work out. Now, with the caveat, nothing played really poor. Anybody, I saw people tweeting at me going,
I was so triggered by all this, mate.
Yeah, right. No, and Carmack did it too. Right. I love Jordan. I mean, I really do. I consider him a friend. I've known him many fucking years. He's a good fucking guy. I like the guy. But if anybody thinks his individual level of performance and the performance of Mouse proves that he can hang at tier 1, I don't know what. Counter-Strike's not the game for you. May I suggest Overwatch? You will like it. It's got lots of nice flashing colors. No one knows what's going on. Not even the observers or the commentators half the time. Go watch that. You'll love that. Because nothing. He was a functional player. He basically became Steeko for this event, and Steeko got to taste being good and accused of cheating while nothing was there. That's all he did. He was. This team was carried by Rops and Chris J. Like, Chris J especially, unbelievable level of performance from him. So yeah, we'll talk about the nothing part first. Definitely, people are out of their minds. All the hype and nothing's contribution.
Like, here's the thing. I get it when the people who were like, for example, I will never necessarily criticize if like Sean Gares and Lurpus, people who have literally been the in-game leader of nothing, say, oh, you know, like, great job, or, you know, looking forward to seeing what you can bring to the city. Right, fair enough. They're his personal friends. It is somewhat reasonable for your personal friends to support you on Twitter and to say good job and, you know, look at enjoying the matches and stuff. What doesn't make sense is half the industry was fawning over him as though, like, you know, he was some veteran savvy that was like bringing an extra people were saying this, Rich, when they would win a match at the tournament, people would be trying to give him the credit, like, oh, I think he really brought something special to that squad. You mean like not as good as their star player, but they played such shit teams it didn't matter in the tournament? What are you talking about? I mean, objectively, aside from the SK series, a team in mad trouble, he was fucking non-existent in this tournament. Like, he was literally, like you said, just a body in a seat, getting the odd kill and not just... I can't even say not just shit in the bed. Like, he had many games that were just very... Like, in the final, I thought he was absolutely dreadful. I don't even care what anyone says.
Yeah, well, look, and let's be real about what Jordan brings to a team. You're always going to get a nice, relaxed, cool head with Jordan. Doesn't get phased, doesn't get ruffled. Always positive. Definitely got a great mind for the game. Definitely will give you input in those mid-round calls. You know, doesn't go missing. Doesn't let his emotions get the better of him. The mental side of his game, when he can focus, is well documented to be very, very good. But in terms of his actual in-game ability, the tangibles, He's just a very average player right now at this stage in his career, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. There's fucking players who've been around as long as him that have fallen off the fucking face of the earth by comparison. But man, you're right. I mean, imagine being Chris J, right? And so you were the team AWPer. You stop doing that because you accept Oscar needs to be the AWPer because he's a better AWPer than me. You become a really good rifler. Then Oscar doesn't come to an event because he wants to pretend he's Snow fucking White. And you have to pull the AWP out again.
And you carry.
And you carry.
And then everyone's like, you know what? That bloody nothing brought something to the team. It's unreal, isn't it?
Yeah, seriously, I'd be motherfucking triggered. Listen, one of the things that we fall into like quite a lot in the esports broadcasting business is storylines and narratives.
There's another one coming up for this one as well, mate. So don't worry.
Well, yeah, but I'll just make the general point that at the end of the day, it's a great story that nothing came back after all this time out and had a competent level of performance.
Sure.
Right? It shows what I'm saying. I think he can go to an NA team as a veteran. If Fugly hadn't pulled his socks up, I'd still be saying I think he could be a good fit in the NRG team. Give him the wisdom of experience, do all the support roles, activate these fantastic young talent and help develop them. That would be great. Nobody's disputing that, but tier 1 nothing, it doesn't exist. And if he does, he definitely didn't show it at this event. I'm sorry, he didn't. What you got instead was Mousesports were just unbelievable. Like two Mousesports players were on such an unbelievable level, they were able to somehow make it work without their star AWPer being there. So what was the other storyline that triggered you before we get into the final?
Right, okay. People, unfortunately, are going to go ahead and assume this is just like anti-Brazil bias on my part, right? But I have been absolutely consistent across all tournaments around the world that I fucking hate it when the entire broadcast talent feel the need to fillet the fact that we have a crowd 24/7. And it's like the event almost you would think this entire event was a marketing skit to make you want to have events in Brazil. It wasn't that it had great Counter-Strike. Like, I don't understand the premise. So what we're being told is esports is so big now, it's like a sport. People will fill a stadium. Oh, they'll fill a stadium, but you have to wear Brazilian shirts and constantly mention Brazil and say how great the crowd is. Otherwise, they'll leave the stadium. What the fuck is this? Are they not there to watch the matches? Why were people genuinely scared, because they were, that no one was going to turn up to this final and cheer? So if the local team's out, we're not even going to go. Aren't they the fans of Counter-Strike? Aren't they? If I'm a fan of Counter-Strike, I want to see Faze Clan play. I want to see the nothing in a final. It's, like the idea that like we have to go this ham on, it's ridiculous. And then just add in as a side topic, because again, people are going to be so dumb because they don't know the context. They're going to think this is beach being salty. But the idea that I got all that abuse like 5 years ago for wearing that fucking Lakers jersey at a shitty little DreamHack winter where there's no professionalism and they're allowing a cunt who isn't even part of the broadcast to get up on stage and stand next to MBK with a mic going. So we're at a dog shit land like that.
But enough about Parler.
I wear, exactly, yeah. I wear a fucking Lakers shirt and people lose their mind. Oh, you're holding esports back. You're killing its chances to go mainstream. Then we go to this stadium, everyone just wearing a Brazilian football outfit, including Faze, pandering to the crowd, all the broadcast talent, pandering to the crowd. Everything, every single half a word out your mouth has to be about how great the crowd is. How about the fucking games? Any good games going on there?
I'll say this though. It definitely wasn't just this event. Like I remember when we were doing events. Well, yeah, when we were doing the E-League major in Boston, there was a genuine worry that if like an American team didn't make it, what happens to the crowd? Which,
by the way, is fine, but it just shows that it's overhyped. It's nonsense. The idea that esports is this massive thing,
Yeah. Well, look, I think both. I think both can be true. I don't think it's necessarily oxymoronic. Yeah,
here's the thing, Rich. I always have a good way of if someone disagrees with me, the way I try to attack it is I take their premise and I run with it. So I say, right, okay. I'll take people's premise that these crowds are legit amazing, and you know what? They also do like make a special an atmosphere, and you know what? If you're the home crowd, they help you win by like boosting your ego. Right? Okay, let's accept that premise. It is now massively unfair to constantly have events in the same countries. Like, how is it fair for a team from Denmark to not have a massive event there? How's it fair for a team from Germany to not have a, whatever the scenario is, it would be so unfair if that was true. Because apparently it's just giving a mad advantage to people. It's going to be like, it can't be both.
Yeah. Yeah. I can understand the concern. I definitely think, and again, this isn't the sort of dig at ESL specifically because everyone does it, but I think ESL do it more than most. And honestly, I can pinpoint the moment where it became like a cultural thing that ESL would do. It was definitely started with Katowice.
Oh, for sure, yes.
It definitely started with the first Katowice, which was, if you remember, I mean, I know you remember it, for different reasons, but it was a pet project for Carmack.
Sure, I at least get that one. The context of that one made sense.
But, it was obviously a big deal to him. But unfortunately, because it was a big deal to him and he was the product manager for ESL, what it did was it sort of permeated, it became this real saccharine celebration of Poland and Polish esports fans. And as you say, I mean, I think to a certain degree, there was a little bit of almost the Counter-Strike was kind of almost like a secondary thing.
Plus, think about this. Obviously, my main criticism of the Katowice event for years now has also been, don't tell me every year it's the best crowd and then that you still let them in for free. What is this shit? What sort of ridiculous world would that be where it's the best crowd in esports, but the fuckers won't pay $5 to go in the door? You can't even get a nominal fee for your whole crowd in the stadium. Same thing here. I looked it up, Rich. $10 a day is what it costs to go to this event. Best crowd in esports. Wow, incredible. Oh, amazing that. Oh, I wonder why fucking Prince doesn't go there when he was alive and do a concert for $10 a day. What, is he an idiot? Did he just not want the best crowd in the world? No. He goes where you pay $300. That's what a real, actual fucking entertainment act does when it's a sporting event.
I wouldn't want esports to fucking have football ticket prices, though.
That's where it will be if it's an actual massive thing like a sport. That's the way the market economy works.
Yeah, but think about the demographic we got. It skews young. Football definitely skews older. You've been to football matches, right?
Sure.
I when I was a kid and I went to matches, a ticket was a fucking lot of money back then.
They have 40 games in your city when you're playing football. They have one event in Brazil in 2 years, and it's $10 a ticket.
What about economies of scale being a factor? How much is $10 realistically within?
Well, obviously, that's why you hold the fucking event there as well. You don't have to pay $50 million for the stadium, do you?
I think I was surprised. The reason I'm a little bit kind of iffy on your point there about the Brazilian crowd is I was surprised they charged at all. I thought it was going to be another we'll take the hit to fill the stadium, especially with concerns that a Brazilian team wouldn't make it to the final. I honestly thought that when they said people paid money, I was like, oh, fuck, yeah. I thought it was going to be like a Katowice type thing where it was it's just you book your ticket and you come in for free. I mean, E-League, our tickets were free.
Yeah, no one's going on about E-League having the best fucking crowd in the world, are they?
I don't think I ever said that. But someone will find a clip of me doing it.
That's also the dumbest part about this. People are going to think I'm blowing this up. No, if you mentioned it every now and then, I'm not joking. Every match it was mentioned, every single match.
Yeah, and again,
it was so over-egged, even as a concept. Yeah.
I'll say this. I've got a suspicion. I haven't talked to anyone about it. I've got a suspicion that isn't coming naturally from the talent, right? I don't think the talent are taking it upon themselves when they go and they see the long shot of the crowd. I don't think Sadakist, for example, is just whimsically going, guys, what an amazing crowd we've got here. I think they're getting fed. They are getting fed to say that, right? You are being told.
I'm not sure.
I mean, I've had it before. Acknowledge the crowd. Obviously they want to get the crowd hyped. I always try and skew more to the side that I'd rather the crowd was just sort of naturally into it and I was doing my job and not having to be a hype guy. You know, I don't like that. I think when it gets to the stage when you're a host and you're literally kind of like hyping the crowd, you know, I said it before with E-League, like they had me throwing T-shirts out. It's like, guys, I'm not doing that.
Oh, and by the way, again, this is where it permeated every aspect of this fucking event. Every interview. Oh, what's it like to play in front of this crowd? It's the whole thing, just fan service for some Brazilian people. I thought this was an event that's supposed to have millions of people watching worldwide. It's part of a massive global emerging sport, which is a real business, and everyone should invest hundreds of millions of dollars. It's going to be the new NFL. And what's that? We're doing the whole thing as some sort of mad WWE fan service for one group of people, as though it was some like mad college bachelor party.
Well, but this is the thing. It wasn't just in Brazil. It wasn't just for Brazilians. This has been a trend. Think about everything.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's just Brazil. That's the worst thing. So I'm saying it's a trend from events that just tilts me. This just happened to be the worst example I've seen recently of it.
Yeah, like there is this idea that if you don't pander to the crowd, they might not stick around, and I think that's I agree.
Plus, the reason why I get the reason why I get pissed off about it is this as well, is no one ever says the other side of it. Like, it's not like Carmack says, oh, the crowd in Katowice is amazing. Fuck the crowd in Auckland. Yeah, he doesn't do that. But you know what? That is an obvious corollary. That is implied. If you keep saying, wow, this crowd's just so incredible here, like they're so amazing here, and then you don't say it about the other one, and it isn't, the implication not only is that, like, wow, the crowds in America aren't as good, but it's even worse than that, Rich. Because you're bigging up the idea that it's like natural passion for the game and love of it, the implication is that people from objectively countries doing badly somehow are just like better people when it comes to supporting Counter-Strike. Meanwhile, people who are comfortable are somehow like, I don't know, fucking dilettantes or like just got a degraded love of the game. Like, what a stupid discussion this is to even need to get into.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like yeah, I will say you do see it a little bit in sports, but it's not going out live to the crowd. Like, I've been watching the World Cup, right? It's why I'm a little bit tired and grouchy today. I don't know if you've been following it, right? But I have, and obviously Iceland played, and Iceland got a result, right? And everyone remembers that Iceland, it's this tiny little fucking country, tiny. Yeah, they got a draw with Argentina, right? And Buenos Aires is 45 times the population of Iceland, the whole of Iceland. And everyone remembers their fans doing this ridiculous thing that they do. You know, it's like the thunderclaps, and it's like some Nordic Viking style chant. And everyone says, oh, bloody Iceland's great, right? So I'm watching the Argentina-Iceland game, and they're saying, look at these fans, amazing. Some of the loudest, most vibrant fans here. They're outnumbered heavily by the Argentinians, but they're certainly the loudest. And you're like, okay, yeah, great fans. They've got a song, they've got a chant. Brilliant. Love that. Makes for a great atmosphere. Then the next day, you got Senegal playing, and it's just the same shit. And they're just saying, listen to the Senegalese fans, amazing fans, some of the best fans, the loudest fans. And you're like, hang on a fucking minute. And it's like, I think it's just become, it is almost like a sports trope. We're probably actually closer in line with real sports than you think. I think paying lip service constantly to fans. Like, I saw footage of the Japanese fans tidying up after themselves in the stadium, like picking up bottles and putting them in the bags, and everyone, they're the nicest fans, the best fans, the most decent fans. And then someone said, well, you didn't say this when Senegal were doing it, and then they put a video up. And now immediately that corollary you're talking about, where it's like, you can only have one best set of fans. Why not just say the fans are good, like they've got that good song, or the fans are good, they like to tidy up after themselves? But aren't football fans great, apart from those bad ones? You know, it just seems really weird. Like, and yeah, it's probably way worse in esports, but I don't think it's an esports exclusive problem, dude. Like, the World Cup has been pretty nauseating for some of the lip service they paid to some of the fans already. This game, but anyway, look, back to the final, the Mousesports thing. So Mousesports got to the final, and they were up against Faze, rapidly becoming a classic rivalry, I would say. Like from the end of 2017 onwards, they've had some amazing series, played really well. I'll ask you one question here first up. Were you surprised Faze made it to this final? Because it was looking kind of shaky. They had to bring Croman in. They weren't sure if he was going to play. It was like a carryover from ECS. Wasn't their original plan. But actually, it seemed to work. I thought Croman played really well, apart from in the final where I think nerves got to him a little bit. But were you surprised FaZe had as good a showing out here and, of course, went on to win the whole tournament?
What's bizarre about this FaZe team is that when they had their real lineup with Olofmeister, part of the reason why it was so shocking they would lose these finals is because your brain tells you, if you've got Guardian and you've got Nico, I mean, I can add other names, but just those two a lot. You should be winning some of these matches anyway. You know, you should almost like trip over and Nico get a 3 kill in the match point game and you beat Cloud9, or you should be a match against Guardian's going off, right? Well, now you don't even need that much, you know, to win this fight. So the fact that they were losing with the old line always was bizarre. And so what I've noticed, and in fact, Nico himself even said this in an interview, is that when they've been playing with the stand-ins, so Exister now Croman, basically it sort of signals to Nico and Guardian, people who have played in their careers and at times been the sole hard carry, like, it's up to you guys. You guys better go ham. And Nico basically implied that, like, I said this in some interview, I think at HLTV.org, that, like, yes, when he has a stand-in, it makes him realize like he has to do more individually. And so, you know what, when they go ham as they did here, I mean, Nico over the whole tournament was sick, Guardian was still very, very good up until the final, then you should be able to beat the quality of teams that are at this event, because let's face it, it wasn't strong teams. Now, I will say, the fact that, like, even though Croman played well, I wouldn't necessarily want him as the 5th player. You know, I'd rather, if you can get Olofmeister back, I still want that move. But yeah, I think you just have that level of talent. And let's face it, another aspect to Carrigan's career, which has been vastly underrated, because you had a load of morons, mainly with South American passports, constantly talking about the fact that he didn't win with FaZe, is this is one of the best in-game leaders of all time at getting a team ready for a tournament immediately. Like, you give him a bunch of players, he's obviously already something of a mixed style in-game leader anyway. He's now made back-to-back stand-ins who shouldn't have had any business being at this level look really good, and his team adapt anyway and be a world-class team. So credit to him, credit to the star players. All in all, makes sense to win the tournament, I think. Yeah,
I mean, it was a real good final. I did feel a little bit sorry for Mousesports, but again, if they'd had Oscar there, I think Mousesports probably would have comfortably took this. Yeah, Chris.
That's also the part I found a bit tough about this whole event, Rich. It's like, not only are people bigging up the Brazilian fans as though like this is, you know, like the most memorable event of all time. Like, real talk, aside from SK and Team Liquid, there aren't any good teams at this tournament. Like, FaZe and Mouse have standings, so if they'd have flopped the tournament, well, you wouldn't blame them. You'd say we have a standing, fair play. So Team Liquid shit the bed. SK is just not good anymore. Like, what? This isn't some mega event, you know? I mean, listen, I didn't argue with you when you said that the Asian CSGO Championship wasn't some mega event. No, I'm fully aware of that. But people will absolutely delude themselves. I think this is some important event, you know? That's why if Mouse had won and everyone had spun that nothing narrative up, I would have just said, no, this is just nonsense, isn't it? It's like, you didn't win a proper event, did you?
Yeah, there was definitely, like you say, the asterisks were out in force, I think, at this event. You know, and obviously it's easy to say it, but I think if Mousesports had Oscar and had their full team, I definitely think they would have took FaZe. No doubt about it in my mind. But it was a great final. The one last talking point I want to get from Belo Horizonte was just to talk about Liquid. I kind of felt like some people thought they were going to be a shoo-in for the final.
Should have been.
Yeah, and I kind of feel we're saying this a lot now when we talk about Liquid, right? Like, they've got all the parts there, great roster, loads of talent. You definitely wouldn't want to change the roster, right? Like, Taco's gone there and proven that he definitely wasn't the issue. But within SK, that is, rather. But yeah, they keep falling when they get to hurdles you think they're going to clear. Like, I had Mousesports to beat Liquid, but certainly I think most people picked Liquid for this one. And again, keep in mind it's Mousesports with a stand-in. But there's just something about Liquid right now, Duncan. They don't seem to be able to get past these sort of points in tournaments you would back them to clear. Do you have any insight as to why that would be?
Well, first of all, I mean, we mentioned this on one of the past shows. Like, they are one of the youngest teams in the entire fucking top tier. I mean, the average age of the team's like 21 years old or something mental. So you'd expect a team that's very young to not be the ones who get through the big pressure moments. Because this, to me, is the best example of it. You know, like in other tournaments when they lost, they lost to Astralis, or they lost to, I mean, the NRG one, admittedly, is not a good one in Star Series, but, generally they were losing to the top teams, and you could always do that moral victory thing of like, oh, well, they were still good, and, maybe next event. But you add in the NRG result at Star Series, and this one here, losing to a team that on paper you should beat because they're in a standing situation. It feels like there's something going on with this team when they have the pressure on them themselves. It's not about the opponent, clearly. So I think you look at it, and I mean, one of the weird things about this squad for me is that whole angle of like, oh, but we don't need to have a clear star player because we've got just so much bloody talent that we all take turns. That will always fall down in the same way in every team like that, which is you get to the big match and one of your players like Elige, here's the thing, if I tomorrow take this Team Liquid squad and I transfer fucking Twists off the team and I put Fugly in his position, right? Now you'd easily be able to tell me, well, it's got to be Naf and Elige. They've got to be my star players. So immediately you would have identified that they have to be good for us to win. And if they weren't, you'd go, you're a main reason we didn't win. So when Elige completely shit the bed in that semi-final, people don't go, oh, this is a big problem for the team, because they go, I'll get it back next tournament. So I feel like that, for me, is like the core problem I see with them as a squad. Is like they have all this talent and then they think that alone is going to get you through, It's like that great fucking Johan Cruyff quote that said something like, I never saw a bag of money score a goal. It's the same shit. I never saw some fucking potential like win a match for you. You have to actually do it, and that's why there's players out there who aren't as good at skilled and as talented as Elige, who I'd take over him tomorrow because I know they'll do it in the fucking match.
So, look, I'm going to start wrapping up the podcast now. We got our patrons' questions, and we're going to go. So I will say, look, I know there's a lot of other stuff we didn't talk about. DreamHack. We've got, obviously, the Panorama UI. There's some more news stories we didn't cover. Me and Duncan's obviously a little bit under the weather, so we'll get out now. But we'll try and do one a little bit earlier in the week, maybe Monday, Tuesday. We've got to get 4 done a month anyway. We'll definitely hit that. We'll talk about those topics then, so don't worry. We're not going to forget about them. We'll do the questions. Delph Insomniac asks a question about nothing. I think we've answered most of it. Basically, he says pretty much what we said, that he wasn't great, but he was okay at ESL 1. Do you think he could be a leader of men and perhaps build a team as an in-game leader?
I'm confused. What was the first part of the question?
Well, it was just acknowledging what we said, that he didn't play amazing, but he played well enough to justify maybe not retiring. I'm
with you. Here's he doesn't have to retire. Like, I already find it laughable, the notion that it's like, well, I have to retire now, guys. I'm 27 or whatever. Like, that's ridiculous, mate. Unless you are so shit you can't play the game anymore. No, you don't. It's completely up to you. But you have to swallow your fucking pride and go and play for NRG or play for Splice or, some squad like that and work your way up again. I mean, who knows? Cloud9's is such a bad spot. Maybe you could even join them again. But you're not ever going to be in the best NA team, and you're definitely not going to be winning fucking majors or whatever. So don't have any illusions about that. You have to understand that, like, this is what I've mentioned this many times on past episodes. I hate that we've got to the aspect where there's enough money in the scene for it to happen, but we don't have the filter down of the veterans to the second and third tier teams. And the worst thing is they all do the same thing. They hang on forever at the top level, and the second they can't have their top level spot, even though they were telling you they were so motivated and willing to work their way back, the second they don't have their tier 1 spot, like little spoiled kids, I'm out, I'm just quitting now. It's like, well, you never were in it then, were you? Doesn't surprise me it went to shit at the end of your time at the top team if this is the attitude you had. So I agree. He could absolutely be a player. There's many players like him could keep playing. Look at Freiburg in Heroic, they can have careers, but you have to also realize where you are in your career, not be delusional, think you're going to be at your best again.
Yeah. So to sort of answer the question about being an in-game leader, I don't like the idea of Jordan as an in-game leader. I think he's much better as that kind of guy who calls in mid-rounds, more of a like motivator in the team. I think if you're relying on him to disseminate tactics, people who've played with him in the past have said, Jordan has had like focus issues. Like, you'll hear like anecdotes about him, like forgetting to buy, like they'll be like, Eco, you get the flash, you get the smoke, and maybe Jordan forgets to buy the flash. And this is like a recurring theme in his career. I'm not talking out of school. This is stuff that's out there on YouTube videos and whatever. Now, I don't think somebody like that is guilty of that is organizationally deficient like that can really be an in-game leader. So I don't like the idea of him. I think he can bring a lot to a team, but and it certainly could come up with a really good playbook that he then gives to an in-game leader. Like, I think he could do that. I think he could be a great coach, for example, but an in-game leader who's got to call on the fly, read the game, be cognizant of all the moving parts, not for me. The other question from Jerky's Minion was just asking what user interface, overlay is the best you have seen at any event. I think this will probably be quite a quick one to answer. I think PGL probably has raised the bar. They were the first to kind of like refine the UI, and now they've started doing the augmented reality. So I definitely think it's PGL for me. Nobody does everything perfect. Like I noticed there was this augmented reality thing PGL were doing at the event you were at, where it was like it would go in virtual reality and have like all the stats coming actually like out the back of the player, and it looked slick. But every time they did the effect, they played music that drowned out the commentators, and it was like the sound mix was off. It's like little things like that. But yeah, PGL, I think in terms of production, they're never afraid to experiment. And certainly. And again, I know from working at other companies, people look at PGL and say, we're going to copy that. So, agreed?
Yeah, I think those are the best.
Yeah. All right, then. So, as I said, we're going to wrap up the show, let Duncan get some rest and a lem sip into him. Basically, we will do a show earlier in the week. So we'll get to the topics we didn't talk about today. And of course, the show is made possible thanks to our patrons. We have our $100 patrons, Detlef Insomniac, Chris Enwin, Eric Boutros, TTM XMP, Hyolu, Mateus Pietkowski, Ruxen, Jerky's Minion, and our $50 patrons, the Archangel Varao, Sard Sawar, Daniel Plamanov Yordanov, Pete Bidstrup, TC Owns, Vexy, Nostradamus, Marcus Kyunpa, Madsen, Ollie Ginther Zillan, Colin Penny, Mama Jamma Hennessy, Benakagi Assassin, and William Southern. Obviously, to all the people that donate anything to the show, thank you very much for doing so. Thank you for all your continued support. Hope you enjoyed the podcast this week. We'll be back early next week. And until then, take care of yourselves.